Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Baiju's Exam Prep IAS. This is Sham Kagud here. Now, before we start the discussion, if there is no issue with the sound, can you please give me a thumbs up? Either say yes, alphabet S, alphabet Y, or even this will be okay. Done. Thanks a lot. And those who are saying the sound is not coming to them, only two people are saying that there is a sound issue. Either refresh the page, one of the two things. Either refresh the page, a second thing, there's a button fix audio button. Please hit the fix audio button. One of the two things you do it, it will work fine. Done then. Let's start. I hope all of you are doing good, studying very good, preparing very well. I'm also good, by the way. Thanks for asking. Let's start. So, welcome to the first session for Indian economy, evening class, evening batch for you. Before I start the discussion, here is a very important announcement. Before the economy module started today, there were polity classes which were conducted by Anubhav sir. So a feedback link will be sent to you. Please provide your honest feedback. So with that caveat, let me begin the discussion. So today is the first class. So before I begin with the discussion of the topics, etc., I just want you to understand what is expected of you in the UPSC examination. And whatever we are going to discuss in the classroom, please understand this. Whatever we are going to discuss, the topics will be for both UPSC prelims examination as well as mains examination, right? Because many of the students will keep on asking me, sir, please tell me the list of the topics which is only relevant for prelims, only relevant for mains. Of course, yes. If you look at the trend, there are certain topics, very few of them, by the way, on which the questions are generally asked in UPSC mains. For example, if you ask me, sir, any name of the topic, there is a topic, I'll tell you later. Don't worry. On that topic, only in the mains you can get the examination. But because you've started preparing now and you have sufficient time, you have a lot of time even now. So my recommendation would be that do not try to distinguish everything into prelims and mains, etc. Try to read everything in one shot. Done. Now, before I tell you what are the topics we are going to discuss, right, which is important, which is not important, etc., why economics is important, why GS paper 3 is important. The reason is simple. If you look at economics part, or to be more precise, Indian economy part, the number of questions which are asked in prelims, that is civil services prelims examination as well as mains examination, lot of questions will come. If you look at the trend, please look at the trend. And by the way, if you ask me, should you by heart this particular trend? Absolutely no. Please do not by heart the trend. UPSC is not going to ask you the trend. For example, UPSC will not ask you in the civil services examination 2022, dash number of questions were asked from Indian economy in prelims. Absolutely no. So don't waste your time. What is the trend? On an average, 15 questions are asked. Is the logic okay with all of you? On an average 15 questions are asked in civil services prelims examination. So how many were asked in 2023? Around 15 to 16 were asked purely from Indian economy. What about means? On an average, around 6 to 7 questions are asked. Around 6 to 7 questions are asked from the Indian economy part itself. And going beyond this, if you ask me, sir, only 6 to 7 questions, for that, do I need to worry so much about Indian economy? The interesting part, I'm saying interesting part. So, interesting part about Indian economy is that over a period of time, there will be certain concepts which are not only coming in Indian economy, they will also come in the concept of geography. It will also come under polity. Just to give you a very simple example, when you talk about, let's say, a topic such as budget, we have not discussed it yet. Please don't worry, don't start asking questions about budget. So if you talk about a topic such as a concept of a budget, do you think the term budget, or let's say the concept of budget, is discussed only in Indian economy? Absolutely no. No doubt, I will discuss, you will understand, etc., etc. That will also come in the concept of polity. So over a period of time, you will come to know that okay, there is overlapping part. So whatever you read, or let's say some of the topics that you read in Indian economy, they are overlapping in other subjects as well. I'll give you one more example. There is a term called as National Infrastructure Pipeline. Please do not be worried about anything here. I'm not discussing anything. Please don't worry right now. So there is a concept under Indian economy which is called as National Infrastructure Pipeline. Couple of years ago, this was asked in the geography paper. So whatever we discuss, I hope you understand, there is a overlapping part, right? You will also have to apply this knowledge in other papers as well. So that is very important. Please remember that. So on an average, this is the trend. Do not worry about the trend. What I would recommend is Indian economy is important for prelims as well as mains. Do not ignore this subject along with all the other subjects. Even this is a very, very important subject. Now, what is the syllabus? What we'll be studying, right, in the course of, let's say, next 1 month, every day, weekdays in the evening session. So this is the list of the topics. Again, there are many other topics which are not listed yet, but we'll discuss it. Please don't worry. For example, right, if you look at the concept of inclusive growth, couple of minutes ago I said there are certain topics on which questions will be asked only in the mains. So some of the students have started asking, sir, in that case, tell me which topic is it, which will appear only in the mains. This is one topic, inclusive growth. So the concept of inclusive growth, right? This generally is not touched in UPSC prelims examination. Right? It's never touched in the prelims examination. The questions will come only in the mains examination. That has been the trend of UPSC. But again, I hope you understand this is the trend. Can UPSC change the system tomorrow itself? Of course, yes. Of course, yes. For example, I'll tell you one more topic. Can you see this particular topic? Banking, RBI, and NBFC. The concept of banking, RBI, and NBFC. The questions from the banking chapter generally do not appear in mains examination. They do not appear in the mains examination. Where do they appear then? Around 4 to 5 questions will come from this chapter itself. That is banking, RBI. And within that also, the most important one is Reserve Bank of India, RBI, Reserve Bank of India. So this is a list of the topics. Many of you are asking, should we remember the names of all the topics? Please don't waste your time. Do not waste your time. Do not start asking questions within the list of the topics. For example, some of the students are asking, sir, you have written the term inclusive growth. Define inclusive growth. My dear, we will do that. I hope you understand. We'll do that. It's like when you open a book, there is an index provided in the beginning. All of you have seen a book, right? There is an index provided in the beginning. Chapters are not discussed in the index. It's just an indication. So I hope you understand. There's a list of the topics. Do not worry. We'll take up each of the topic individually and we'll discuss all the topics individually. Done? So this is the list of the topics. Please go through this. Do not by heart the list. Do not waste your time. UPC will not ask you to list out. Okay. Now, what about the references? Many of you are asking references. What about the references then? This is the list of the references. Okay. This is a list of the references. Now, please understand this. Generally, most of the subjects, not all of them, most of the subjects in UPSC examination are divided into two parts. One we call it as a static part, correct? And the other one is dynamic part. Anybody who is hearing the term for the first time? One is called as a static part and the other one is called as a dynamic part. In simple terms, static means whatever comes in the books. Whatever comes in the books, whatever is there in the book. Second, dynamic means whatever comes in the current affairs. Those who are saying, sir, this is my first class ever, I'm telling you about it now. Whatever comes in the current affairs, we call it as dynamic part. And whatever is there in the books, we call it as a static part. Okay. Now, for Indian economy, both the parts are very, very important. Very, very important. Why? Many of the times, questions have come from the static part. That is purely from the textbook. Purely from the textbook, they have picked up the question. Sir, which textbook should I refer to? Any one reference book is okay. Any one. right? I hope you understand my point. Any one reference book is okay. Sir, I have Ramesh saying, is it sufficient? Okay, go ahead with that. Sir, I have Mr. Sanjeev Verma's book. Is it sufficient? Go ahead with that. Any one standard book is sufficient. Please do not waste your time in reading 3 books, 4 books, 5 books, 6 books. Please don't waste your time. Only one standard book is more than sufficient for your preparation for Indian economy. But some of you will ask me, sir, this is for the first time that I'm hearing the term economics. I'm very much afraid of economics, right? I'm basically afraid of economics. The moment I hear the term economics or Indian economy, I'll start shivering, I'll start sweating. In that case, what should I do? In that case, start with NCRTs. Very simple. In that case, start with NCRT. Right? Sir, some of you are asking, sir, what about Nitin Singhania book? Do that. Only one book, but please understand my point. What about Nitin Singhania book? Okay, you have that book. Please read that. Only one book. More than sufficient. Underline that particular point. More than sufficient. Now, if you are going to ask me, is there any book which you can call it as a best book? Please understand, no. You cannot simply call one book as a best book. For example, I'll tell you why. If you purchase any book for that matter, there are some books where the number of pages are very less. And there are certain books where the number of pages are 800, 900. Now you think of it, and generally many people, including me, believe that, or let's say, right, think like that only. Our thinking is that if the number of pages of the books are large, if the number of pages are large or many, we come to an understanding, okay, this is a better book. But is it true? I hope you understand. Is it true? Absolutely no. So I hope you understand the point here. According to your requirement, take any one book, read that more than sufficient. And in that book also, please don't read from first page to last page. You are simply wasting your time. Why? There are lot of topics which have no relevance to UPSC, which are put into that particular book. In that case, sir, how should I understand what to read, what to not read? Whatever we cover in the classroom, if that is there in the book, please read that. Is it okay? All of you are following my point? Whatever we cover in the classroom, if it is there in the book, cover that. But more importantly, update that with current affairs. Update that with current affairs. Because trust me, Indian economy, if you are good with your current affairs, it is very easy to score, both prelims as well as mains. I hope you understand. Indian economy, easy to score, provided you are good with your current affairs. Sir, in that case, how many months current affairs should I prepare? I would recommend 15 months, 12 to 15 months. 12 to 15 months. Please remember this, 12 to 15 months prior to examination date. For example, let's say next year, May. If the exams are there in the next year, May, then 12 to 15 months prior to next year, May, I would recommend start preparing from that. Okay. Now, NCRTs, which NCRTs? These are the 4 NCRTs. If you do not have any exposure to Indian economy, and if you feel Indian economy is very difficult to understand, economics is very difficult to comprehend, then I would recommend please read these 4 NCRTs. 4 NCRTs. Class 12th macroeconomics, class 11th Indian economic development, class 10th understanding economic development, class 9th economics. These are the 4 books, right? Please read these particular 4 books, NCRT books, free of a cost. These are available in PDF form. You can use them. Done, right? So standard book, any one standard book, current affairs, newspaper, as well as magazine. Now, many of you are asking which is the best magazine, which is the best newspaper. Again, the argument remains simple. Most of you are reading Hindu. I know that, right? Because you have been told Hindu is the best. You have been trained to read Hindu, etc. Read it. I don't have any problem. But my argument is very simple. If you are reading Hindu, along with Hindu, read any business related newspaper every day. Is it okay? Am I clear to all of you? If you're reading Hindu newspaper, read it. Absolutely no problem. But along with Hindu, please read one additional business related newspaper. Anyone. Business Standard, Financial Express, Mint, right? Or for that matter, there is a business line. Anyone, Economic Times, anyone you read every day. Stick to one plus Hindu. And my recommendation is for Indian economy, even that additional newspaper, please do not spend too much of money and as well as time. If you want Financial Express basically is available free of a cost online. You can spend, let's say, 15 to 20 minutes every day on that. Not more than that, simple waste of your time. Done? But to make it easier for you people, I'll give you one exercise every week. To make it easier for you people, for the next 5 weeks, as long as I'm going to take your classes, every week I'll give you one assignment. What is the assignment? At the end of the week, that is, let's say, Friday evening session, I will give you a compilation of, let's say, around 10 to 15 articles related to whatever we have covered in the past week. But please understand, it is not for me, I'm giving it for your benefit. Those articles, I'll pick it up from all the business related newspapers such as Business Line, Economic Times, Mint newspaper, Business Standard, etc. So I'll give you a compilation of around 5 to 6 newspaper articles which are relevant to you as per the syllabus covered in the last week. But you will have to read them. Don't ask me to read. I have read them. That's the only reason I know those are important for you. I will give you them, but it is your duty to read those articles. And then you can give me a feedback whether this article was relevant, not relevant, am I wasting your time, right, etc. etc. Please provide your feedback. I'm open to honest feedback. Okay, done. So, with this caveat, let me start the discussion. Okay, let me start the discussion. So today we'll start with the introduction to economics. We'll start with introduction to economics. So let's start. Now, this will be the general practice. Whenever I start a new chapter, I'll tell you the list of the topics I'm going to cover or subtopics I'm going to cover. Then we are going to start. So this is the list of the topics I'm going to cover in this chapter. And at the end of this chapter, we'll take up questions. We'll have a discussion. We'll have a discussion regarding what kind of questions have appeared in the past couple of years in UPSC prelims as well as mains from this chapter itself. Okay, now let's start. Let me start with the definition. Most of you will be afraid of defining economics. So let me start with the definition itself. So, how do you define economics? How do you define the term economics? There are hundreds of definitions which have been provided. Point number one. Point number two, do you need to remember all the 100 definitions? No. Point number three, do you need to remember even this definition? Not necessarily. Right? The reason is simple. UPC so far has never asked a student to define economics, a student to define polity, a student to define geography. Although, I hope you understand. Let me start with the definition. How do you define economics? Economics is a science which deals with human behavior in relation to scarce means and ends. I'll explain. Please listen carefully. What is economics? It is defined in one way, most acceptable way. That is, it is a science which deals with human behavior in relation to scarce means and ends. What do you mean by that? Let me start with a very simple example. Couple of days ago, that is, most of you, I'm pretty sure, would have received salary yesterday, correct? Those who are working professionals, you would have received your salary yesterday because Sunday was holiday, Monday was the second, Sunday was the first, Monday was the second, which was again a public holiday. So yesterday, Tuesday, you must have received the salary. Now, please tell me, salary if you have received, or even before that also if you have received, very good. I don't have any problem with that. But please think of it. Don't you think the amount of money that you have is limited? Anybody in the classroom who says, sir, the amount of money that I have is unlimited? Anybody? Please do let me know. In that case, if you have unlimited amount of money, then my immediate question will be, sir, why are you studying UPSC then? So the amount of money you have is limited, right? Whether it could be 1 lakh rupees, 50,000 rupees, or 2 lakh, whatever it is. But don't you think with that limited amount of money, the amount of money that you have is limited, you are supposed to purchase, let's say, the food grains, you are supposed to purchase petrol for your car or diesel for your car, you are supposed to pay for your books, you are supposed to pay for rent, you are supposed to pay for electricity bill, phone bill, etc., etc. So in that case, can I say the resources means anything that you have using which you will purchase something, you will produce something in the market. So the resources that you have are limited in nature. I'll give you one more parallel example. You want to produce, let's say, certain goods. Imagine you start a new company, you want to manufacture a particular good. Now please tell me, don't you think in that particular situation, if you want to produce this particular bottle, the amount of resources, the amount of money you have is limited, right? So I hope you understand the argument here. Resource simply means whatever inputs we are using to produce something, to purchase something. So the basic idea of economics is the resources that we have are very much limited. Scarce means limited. So because the resources are very much limited, how do we use the resources? How do we allocate the resources? What do we purchase? How much do we purchase? The study of this behavior is called as economics. Is everyone okay with the definition? Anybody has a problem? Please do let me know. I'll repeat it again. The resources that we have are always limited. Because we have limited resources, how do we use them? How do we allocate them? The behavioral study is called as economics. In that case, even government of India, don't you think how much money government of India, how much money they have is limited amount of money? Because some of you will tell me now, sir, but government of India can keep on printing money. Absolutely no. Some of you will ask me, sir, why do you give an example of government? Government has all the powers. They can keep endlessly printing money. No, that will create imbalance in the economy. How, etc. We'll discuss that later. So even government of India has limited amount of money. So using limited amount of money, they want to construct road. They want to, right, provide welfare to the people. They want to provide subsidies to the people. So the ends means what we want to achieve. So whatever we want to achieve, how do we allocate the limited resources we have? That study is called as economics. Is it okay? Now some of you are asking, why do they don't keep on printing money? The reason is there is a term called as inflation. Now many of you will start asking me questions about inflation. Please do not worry, right? Please listen to me very carefully. The only reason I did not use the term inflation was I'm not yet covered inflation. I'll cover it. Don't worry. I don't want you to panic today itself. So if government of India continuously keeps on printing money, that will cause inflation. There is a problem that will arise. That's the reason they will not print the unlimited amount of money. This is basically the definition. Now, the economics is generally divided into two parts. Economics, it's a study, please understand. Now before I go forward, many of you will ask me to give the difference between economy and economics. I'm writing two terms here. Many of you will ask me, sir, then what is the basic idea or the difference between the term economy and economics? I hope you understand the difference here. Please understand. Economy refers to a country. Economy refers to a system, a country. For example, we'll say Indian economy. We'll say Japanese economy, Chinese economy. We are referring to a particular country, a system. Whereas economics is the study. All of you okay with this? Right? Economics is the study, behavioral study. So the term economy refers to a system, economics refers to a subject. Now, economics is further divided into two parts. One is called as a microeconomics, second one is called as a macroeconomics. Now, let me start with a basic example. Let me start with a very basic example. And before I start, always try to make the subject simple. I hope you understand my point here. Try to make it simple with examples. Try to understand the examples. That's more important. Okay. Now let me start with a very simple example here. Imagine there is a country. Okay. Imagine there is a country. There is economy. And in this particular economy, what I'm doing is I'm basically looking at two systems, right? One, there is individuals. Okay, there are individuals, people. Individuals are nothing but people, just like you and me. There are houses, there are, let's say, companies. Okay, there are individuals, there are houses, and there are companies. Now, there are two ways to look at them. One, I will look at the whole of this structure in one way. Whole of the structure means I will consider the individuals in the economy. I'll take into consideration the houses in the economy. I'll take into consideration even the companies in the economy. Now, whenever you look at the whole system, I repeat, whenever you look at the whole system, that study is called as macroeconomics. Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. Whenever you look at the whole system means what? Let's say hypothetically, you will study what is happening to, right? Let's say agriculture sector. You will study what is happening to, let's say, right, the companies in India. You will study what is happening to houses in India. So you are focused on the whole, all the entities, all the individual units, all of them are being considered for study purposes. That is called as macroeconomics. Whereas on the other side, let's say you will take only one individual, one house, right? You will take only one individual and you will start studying what is the income of the individual. What is the demand done for goods by this individual? What kind of goods are consumed by this individual? Whether the individual has a salary or not. So I hope you understand. In this second example, we are not taking the whole system. We are considering individual units in the system or individual agents in the system. Whenever you take individual agents in the system and study, that is called as microeconomics. Any difficulty here? Please do let me know. I'll repeat it again. Right? So have a look at this. The table is given. Whenever you look at the whole system, that is the whole economy you are going to study, right? For example, Indian economy. You'll start studying the whole Indian economy. That is called as macroeconomics. Whereas, if you start looking at only individual units, you will take, let's say, company, and you'll start studying about the company. How many people are employed in the company? What is their salary, right? Etc. What kind of goods will the company produce, etc. If you start studying about company, if you start studying about one house, etc., individual units in the economy, that is called as microeconomics. Is the concept okay with all of you? Now, think of it. Which one do you think? Please think. I'll answer it. Don't worry. But I want you to participate. This is generally how I conduct my classes. I want the students to participate. Think of it and do let me know which one do you think is more important for you to become an IAS officer or IAS officer or a bureaucrat, whatever it is. Which one do you think to pass the UPSC examination? Which one do you think is more important? Right? Macroeconomics is more important. Macro. Even if you read newspapers, macro is important. Again, please understand, if you want to conduct policies, both are needed. But for becoming UPSC clearing UPSC examination, which is more important? Macroeconomics is important. Once you become an IAS officer, definitely yes. Imagine, let's say hypothetically, you become, right, let's say the secretary in the commerce department. Let's hope so, right? Or let's wish all of you become secretaries or at one or the other level. You become secretaries, right? There will be a lot of experts who are going to report to you. So basically what you're doing is you're making policies for the whole economy. So I hope you understand, for exam purposes, macro is important. For exam purposes, macro is very, very important. Even if you look at the topics, What kind of topics are there? Budget. Are you talking about budget of individual houses? Are you talking about budget of company? No, you're talking about budget of whole Indian economy. I hope you understand this. Inflation. Are you talking about individual houses? How much it is getting affected? No, you're talking about whole Indian economy, right? So international trade for that matter. So whatever topics are there, most of them are related to macroeconomics. Macro, right? So macroeconomics is very, very important. Again, I'll repeat the definition. Macro is the study of economy as a whole, whereas micro is study of individual units, right? We are focused on individual demand, individual supply, whereas in macro, the aggregate simply means total. There's a term aggregate here. Many of you will start asking me what you mean by aggregate means total demand in the economy, total supply in the economy, etc., etc. So main tools for micro as well as a macro are basically demand as well as supply. We'll discuss law of demand, law of supply after some time. Okay, so these are basically the introduction points to the definition of economics. Now let me go forward. Let me go forward now. What is the use of studying micro? I'll tell you. Don't worry. Please understand both micro and macro both are connected. I hope you understand. There are two very important reasons. One, both micro and macro both are connected to each other. Sir, how? Let me give a very simple example. During pandemic people lost jobs. All of you will agree with me. So if you talk about individual house, the income earned by the houses came down. Individual people or individuals lost the job. So if you study microeconomics, right, in that particular unit the demand went down, right, the incomes went down, salaries went down, etc. But if what is the basic connection between micro and macro? Basic connection is, if you look at individual houses and study, you will call it as micro. But what if I study total, that is all the houses in India? If I take all the houses in India, don't you think you will get, right, the demand for goods and services in the Indian economy? So there is a connection between both micro and macro. Both are connected, right? So that is first importance. Second importance, why should you study micro? Couple of questions have been asked by UPSC examination, especially in the prelims examination on microeconomics. Am I clear to all of you? Couple of questions, right, sir? How often it is asked? Right, once every 2 years, once every 3 years, here and there, suddenly a term from microeconomics is picked up by UPSC and they will ask you a question on it. So that is a precise reason. Certain important basics of microeconomics I'll teach you. Don't worry. Okay. Now, let me go to the next concept. Four factors of production. Four factors of production. Now, what is this factors of production? Let me start with the beginning point here. Start with the basics. Please tell me, imagine you want to manufacture this bottle. Will you require certain inputs? Will you require certain raw materials or not? Let me start. You only tell me. Right? Today you decide, right? Forget about UPSC. I'll start manufacturing bottles. Will you require inputs or not? Of course, yes. For example, some of you will say, sir, I will require plastic. Correct. Some of you will say, I will require machine. Absolutely correct. Some of you will say, I'll require steel for this. Absolutely correct. So I hope you understand this. For producing anything in the economy, for producing anything, for example, the laptop that you're using, or the mobile that you're using, or the tablet that you're using, that is also a good that is produced. So for production of that as well, you will require something. Inputs, we call it as inputs. Resources are required. Now think of it. These resources, I repeat, these resources, what we do is we'll call them as factors of production. Anybody has a problem with this? I'll repeat it. Whatever inputs or resources are required for producing anything in the economy, these are called as factors. The inputs which are required are called as factors of production. Now, the factors of production in economics are generally divided into four parts. This is my second point. The factors of production are classified into four types. Hence, we call them as four factors of production. What are these four factors of production? One is called as land, second one is called as labor, third one is capital, and the fourth one is entrepreneurship. I'll explain one by one. Listen to me very carefully. Listen to me carefully. I'll repeat the whole process again here. For producing anything in the economy, we will require certain resources or inputs. These inputs are divided into four types. Hence, we call it as four factors of production. These four factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Now, what do you mean by land? Point number one. What do you mean by land? Anything that is available naturally to us. Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. Anything that is available naturally to us, it is called as land. For example, minerals that are available. Right? All of you will agree with me. Minerals are available in the earth crust or below the earth crust, wherever they are available. Right? So minerals that are available to us, or for that matter, the piece of land on which you will construct, let's say, a manufacturing facility, that is also available, that is present in the nature. So anything that is naturally, which is available in the nature, it is called as land. Right? Point number one. Point number two, labor. Labor means people, right? For example, tomorrow you might become an entrepreneur, or let's say an industrialist, businessman. You might open a manufacturing facility, and I will work for you. I will produce goods in your factory. So I hope you understand labor. Second one is labor. Is it okay? So first one is land, second one is labor. Third one, capital. Please understand this very carefully. Capital. What do you mean by the term capital here? Right? Stick to this particular definition. Many of the times the term capital is used in multiple context. I'll repeat my statement. The term capital is used in different context, in different meanings are there in different context. Right? Because many of you are answering to me right now, sir, capital means money. Not necessarily. For example, please understand this. Slightly technical, please understand this. If you use the term capital, if you are using the term capital in the context of a bank, if you are talking about a bank and you say capital, so basically for a bank, capital means money. All of you are okay with this? Capital of a bank, right? Capital of this, capital of that, etc. They use the term money, right, in that particular context. But here, please understand this. Here, whenever I use the term capital, it doesn't mean money. It actually means the assets created by us. The assets which are created by man. Man-made assets are called as capital. Many of you ask me, sir, why? Why do you use the term man-made asset or anything that is created by humans, right? Which we are using in the production process is called as capital. What do you mean by that? I'll give a very simple example. Imagine you have 100 rupees. Let's say, imagine you have 100 rupees. Now, don't you think you will use 100 rupees to purchase machine and machine will be used to manufacture this bottle? Is the logic okay with all of you? I'll repeat it again. Imagine you have 100 rupees. I'll not say 2000 rupee note. Although till 7th it is available, I'll not say 2000 because almost demonetized. Almost. Right? So you have 100 rupee. Can you use 100 rupees to directly manufacture this bottle? Think of it. Can you use 100 rupee? Directly 100 rupee can be converted into bottle. No, you can't do that. You will use 100 rupee to purchase machine, and this machine will be used to manufacture bottle. So this machine, is it available naturally? Now think of it. Is it available in nature? No. We are manufacturing machines. We are creating machines. So can I call this as anything that is produced by humans? All of you okay? Anything that is produced by humans, which is used for production purpose, it is called as right, the capital. Can I go forward now? Let me know. And I use the term assets. I used the term asset. Asset means what? There are two terms. Please remember this. One is called as an asset and the other one is called as a liability. Asset means anything that is expected to get returns to you. Anything that will fetch returns to you, that is called as an asset. On the other side, liability means anything that will lead to payment from your side, it is called as a liability. All of you okay with this? I'll repeat it again. Asset means what? Anything that will give you returns, anything that will fetch money to you, that is called as asset. Whereas a liability means anything that will make you pay money, anything that will lead money payment from your side, it is called as a liability. I'll give a very simple example. Imagine you have gold. Right? Now think of it. You have gold, 1 kg of gold. Right? Although many people have 1 kg of gold. Let's say hypothetically, enjoy. You have 1 kg of gold. Think of it. This 1 kg of gold, will it get money to you or not? Will it get returns to you or not when you sell it in the market? That's the reason it is called as asset. On the other side, you have 1 crore worth of loan. You have taken 1 crore worth of loan from a bank. Don't you think this 1 crore rupee loan becomes a liability for you? That is, you will have to make the payment in the future. So anything that gets returns to you is called as an asset. Anything that will lead to payment from your side is called as a liability. Okay. Now let me ask you a very simple question. A bank deposit, whatever deposit is it, don't worry. A bank deposit for a customer, is it an asset or liability? Bank deposit for a customer, is it asset or a liability? All of you will agree it is an asset. Can I also ask you one more question related to the same thing? A bank deposit for a bank, is it asset or liability? Second question. A bank deposit for a bank, is it asset or liability? All of you okay? It's a liability. For a bank, please understand, some of you are still saying asset. Wrong, my dear. If you are keeping, let's say, 1 crore rupee with the bank has to return it to you. So it's a liability for a bank. All of you okay with this? Right? If you keep 1 crore rupee with the bank has to give it back to you. It is a liability for a bank. Again, please understand, sir, why are you discussing all of this? We will use all of them in the future. It's not that today it's done and dusted, it's of no use. Again, in the future classes, we'll use all of it. Right? So remember it. Now let me get back to the point at hand here. Capital means what? Capital means anything that is, or assets which are created by humans, which are further used in the production process. It could be a machine, it could be a manufacturing facility, it could be various types of infrastructure. All of them will help us in further production and a sale of goods in the market. Okay, that is called as capital. And the fourth type is entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship means what? Think of it. Don't you think there should be someone who will put together labor, who will put together, right, machineries, who will purchase a land, invest money, and start producing goods or services? Is the logic okay with all of you? Somebody has to be there. Somebody has to become the investor, has to become the owner, who will put money, purchase machine, who will hire people, who will purchase raw materials, and has to manufacture, sell it in the market. The person who will start the business, he is referred to, or she is referred to, as entrepreneur. Is it okay? The person who will start the business, right, he or she is referred to as entrepreneur. Okay, so the one who will take risk, who will invest money, who will put together all the remaining three factors of production, he is or she is referred to as entrepreneur. So all of you okay with all the four factors of production? One is called as a land. Many of you ask me, sir, agriculture output. Agriculture output is done by humans. My dear, please understand this. Even before we started cultivating, were the food grains naturally available or not? Think of it. Many of you will simply say, sir, agriculture output, how can you say we are cultivating it? You don't cultivate it, my dear. But tell me, naturally, is it going to, right, automatically, is the crops going to grow or not? In nature, I'm asking. So I hope you understand. So, land, anything that is naturally available. Second, labor, that is you and me, the people who are going to work. Third one is capital, anything that is produced by us, that is asset, which will be further used in the production. That is called as capital. And the fourth one is entrepreneur. It is basically referring to the person. Many of you are asking, what is entrepreneurship? The person who will put money, who will invest money, take the risk and start manufacturing process. Right? That person is called as entrepreneur. All of you okay with this? Done. So these are called as four factors of production. What do you mean by machines here? My dear, haven't you seen machines? Machines which are used for production of bottle, machines which are used for production of mobile phones, machines which are used for production of this marker, etc. So machines are any equipment that is used in a factory to produce goods. That is a very generic term. The term machines is a very generic term. Okay. So let me start. Next, what is the importance of all of this? Very important. Please understand this carefully. Now, we have discussed the concept of factors of production. Okay. We have discussed the factors of production. Now, whenever we talk about factors of production, please understand this very carefully. Can I say factors of production are used by the company to produce goods and services? I'll repeat the statement here. Pitch in. Please let me know. Can I say four factors of production are used by the company to produce goods and services? Are consumed by the company to produce goods and services? For example, sir, what do you mean by that? Let me give a very simple example. Let's say here is a company. This company will purchase, right? Let's say factor of production, produce goods and services, sell it in the market. It could be land, it could be labor, it could be capital, etc. Even it could be entrepreneurship. So it will basically consume these factors of production, produce, sell it in the market. Remember that. First point. Point number two. Out of this, let me take one of the factors of production. That is, let's say, labor. Labor is a factor of production. It's an input. So, company will use the labor services, will use the input, that is, a labor services. For having used the labor services, the company will pay wages or let's say salary of 100 rupee to the labor. Step 1 is very simple. Company will use the labor services, and step 2 is company will pay salary or wage to the labor. Now come to the step 2. Come to the step 2. Many of the students get confused here. Listen carefully. In the step 2, can I say 100 rupee is the income of the worker and same 100 rupee is the expenditure incurred by the company. I'll repeat it again. Listen to me very carefully. Okay. Once you understand, it's very easy. It's very easy. The 100 rupee, look at it in the step 2. Can I say it is income earned by the labor, and same 100 rupee is the expenditure incurred by the company. So rather than using these terms, I'll start saying this 100 rupee is the factor cost paid by the company, and same 100 rupee is the factor income earned by the labor. Anybody has a difficulty here? The 100 rupee is the factor cost for the company, and 100 rupee is the factor income for the labor. Right? Any problem? Now, what is the use of this? Look at the table. Please look at the table. So for labor, the wage paid or the salary paid, I will call it as a factor cost, and the wage earned by the labor, I'll call it as a factor income. And many of you are asking, sir, why are you using the term factor? My dear, labor. What is labor? Can I say this is nothing but input? That is the reason I'm starting with basics now. Right? What is labor? Labor is nothing but input, and input is nothing but a factor. So on labor, if the company will incur an expenditure, company will incur a cost of 100 rupee, can I call it as a factor cost? Is it okay? And the 100 rupee earned by the labor, labor is factor. So can I call it as a factor income? Same. So I hope you understand, for labor, wage or salary is a factor cost. Same wage or salary is the factor income. For land, whatever is naturally available, please understand this. Whatever is naturally available, whenever company will purchase it, company will have to pay money. That I will call it as rent. All of you okay with this? I'll repeat it again. Whatever is naturally available, company will have to purchase it. So when company will purchase, company will pay money. I'll call this as rent. And right, let's say I'll take a very simple example. I'm a company, I'll purchase something from you, let's say land only, or I'll purchase right, let's say minerals. So you will sell it to me, I will pay money to you. So this money I will call it as rent. And you have earned the money by selling that mineral to me. You have earned money. I will call this as factor income. Anybody has a problem here? Let me know. Anybody has a problem? What do you mean by income? My dear, earnings. Earnings are called as income. Let me take another example. Forget about this. Let me take another example. Tomorrow you will become IS officers. Not literally. Tomorrow you will become IS officers. Okay. You will provide services to government of India. Correct? At the end of the month, you will receive a salary of 1 lakh rupees. Can I call it as your income? All of you okay with this? Can I call it as your income? But for government of India, can I call it as expenditure? Think of it. It's basically how the economy works, right? There is a very famous statement. Somebody's expenditure is somebody else's income. I'll repeat the statement. This is how the economy works actually. I'll give you one more, many examples, day-to-day examples I'll give you. One's expenditure, that is somebody's expenditure, is somebody else's income. For example, so how? You will go to a restaurant. You will order for food. You will consume food. You will pay money. For you, it is an expenditure. All of you okay with this? For you, it is an expenditure, cost for you. But for the owner of the restaurant, can I call it as income? So I hope you understand. You'll order something in Dunzo. You'll order something on Blinkit, etc., etc. For you, it is an expenditure. For them, it is an income. So in the same way, you are having minerals. You will sell it to me. So I will pay money to you. So that is your income. I will call it as rent. All of you okay with this? Let me know. I will call it as rent. And on the other side, for me, it is an expenditure, right? So I'll call it as rent, right? So first one is a land. So factor cost is rent and income is rent. Second one is a labor. Factor cost is right, wages. Factor income is wages. Come to the third one, capital. Imagine I'm manufacturing this bottle, right? I'm manufacturing this bottle. I will purchase machine. All of you okay? I will purchase a machine. And when I purchase a machine, should I pay money for the machine or not? Let me know. Should I pay money for the machine or not? Of course, yes. I will have to pay my purchase to purchase machine. So the money that I spend on capital, I repeat, the money that I spend on capital is called as interest. Any problem with the term interest? Many of you will say, sir, interest, don't go to bank. Many of you will take the term interest, go to the banking concept and start asking me, what is this interest? Is the loan given, etc., etc. Don't worry about it. You will purchase a machine, that is capital, to manufacture bottle. For that, you will have to pay money. I will call this as interest. And somebody else who has sold the machine to you, that is also capital for them. They have sold machine to you. So the money that they will earn, it is called as again interest. So third one is capital. Fourth one, entrepreneurship. Many of the students get stuck up here, confused here. Let me ask you a very simple question. You start a company. Why? Think of it and let me know. You start a company to manufacture this bottle. Tell me why. What is the reason? Why will you start the company? All of you will say, sir, to earn profit. Anybody in the classroom who says, sir, I don't want any profit, to incur losses, I'll start the company. Right? Anybody in the classroom? Absolutely not. To earn profit. That is the agenda. That is the whole and soul of a capitalism. So you will start a company, you are the entrepreneur. So any profits of the company should belong to whom? Let me know. The company, whatever profits the company will earn, should belong to whom? Is it okay? The profits of the company should belong to the owner. Right? The entrepreneur is the owner. So profits of the company will be counted as income for the entrepreneur. But because the profits are transferred from the company, are basically taken from the company, given to the owner, we'll call it as a cost for the company. Anybody has a difficulty here? Please do let me know. Anybody has a difficulty? We are taking the profits from the company. It is outflow of money. Can I call it as a cost for the company? Think of it. Here is a company. Here is the owner. So company has earned, let's say 1 crore rupee profit. I will take 1 crore rupee from the company, give it to the owner of the company. So whenever money will be taken, money will go out like this. Can I call it as cost for the company? But on the other side, owner, entrepreneur has earned profit. Can I call it as income for the entrepreneur? Is the logic okay with all of you? Is the logic okay? Can we go forward? What is the difference between factor cost and factor income? My dear, factor cost and factor income, both numbers are one and the same. Number. For example, earlier I took the example of wages or salary. The government will give you 1 lakh rupee salary. Think of it. The government will give you 1 lakh rupee salary. The number is the same, 1 lakh rupee, but you have received it. It becomes a factor income for you. All of you okay? You have received it. It becomes a factor income for you. Government has paid it. Government has given it. So it becomes a factor cost for the government. Any problem? Any problem with this again? Salary is wage or profit? My dear, listen to me very carefully, no? Salary is given to owners. Sorry, salary is given to employees. Profit is given to owners. So I hope you understand the difference between both of them there itself. Salary or wages are given to employees, whereas profits are given to owners. So entrepreneurship is different, right? Labor is different. So labor will earn salary, owners will earn profit. Is the logic okay? Okay, done. Entrepreneur. Okay, I'll repeat it again. The one who will start the business is called as entrepreneur. Is the point okay with all of you? I'll repeat it again. The one who will invest and start the business is called as entrepreneur. Owner of the company is the entrepreneur. Point number two. Whatever are the profits of the company, whatever are the profits of the company are given to the owner of the company. It makes perfect sense. At least this point makes perfect sense. Whatever the profits of the company are given to owners of the company. Now imagine there is a company like this. Okay, you started a company. There is a company X which you have started. The company has earned a profit of 1 crore. You are the owner of the company. So I will simply take this 1 crore, give it to the owner. Give this 1 crore to the owner of the company. So because the money has transferred like this, I will call this 1 crore as the cost for the company, because the company is paying cost for the company and the owner is earning money. I'll call this as income for the owner. Done? Right? It's basic idea, right? Do not complicate it. Can we go forward now? Now, this is basically the concept. Remember this, right? Remember this. We'll use it again when I take up GDP, right? Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we'll discuss GDP. We will require this all over again. Please remember the concept. Now, let me go to the next one. Evolution of economics. Evolution. There are three systems. One is called as capitalism. Second one is called as socialism. Third one is called as a mixed economy. One is capitalism. Second one is socialism. Third one is called as mixed economy. Now, what's the basic idea? What are the examples? Are there pure countries with pure capitalism? Where does India fall, etc., etc.? Let's try and understand. And is it important for UPSC? Yes. Earlier in the mains examination, a question was asked on this line. Please be very careful. Already a question on this line has been asked. Now, let me start with examples. Mixed economy, best example is India. India is a mixed economy. Right? Once we got the independence, after getting independence, 1947, in the year 1948, Government of India announced that India will be a mixed economy. Now, what is a country with socialism? Is there any country with pure socialism? Right? You do not have countries with pure socialism, pure. There are certain countries which are very close to socialism, very close to socialism. For example, Venezuela, Cuba, Venezuela, earlier China, right, or Soviet Union, very close to socialism. Right? Today we do not have pure socialistic economies. Third one is capitalism. Any country which is very close to capitalism, USA. USA is very close to capitalism. But what is the basic idea? Why do we say this country is capitalistic? Or why do we say this policy is capitalistic? How do we differentiate? Let's try and understand. Let's try and understand. Now, to make it easier, I've given a table, but let me take up individually all of them and let's critically evaluate the models. Understand what is it and let's critically evaluate the models. Let's start with capitalism. What is the basic idea for capitalism? Basic idea is, do you remember four factors of production? Let me know. Do you remember four factors of production? Couple of minutes ago we have discussed land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Now, if in the economy, if the producer is private sector, that is private sector will decide what to produce, how much to produce, at what prices to sell, etc. Meaning, who will control land as a factor of production, who will control labor as a factor of production, who is going to invest in the economy. If it is done by the private sector, very simple. If it is done by the private sector, for example, private sector will decide what goods should be produced. Private sector will decide how many goods should be produced, at what prices to be sold, where it will be sold, etc. If everything is done by the private sector, then such a model is called as capitalism. Anybody has a problem with the basic definition of capitalism? Please do let me know. Right? The basic idea is in capitalism, there is a concept called as problems in the economy or central problems of economy. What is the central problem? What to produce, how much to produce, where to sell. These are called as problems in the economy. If private sector will find a solution, will give the answer to all of it. Private sector will decide what to produce. Private sector will decide how much to produce. That model is called as capitalism. What are the features? Private ownership will be allowed. Private investment will be there. Private sector will control labor. Private sector will control investment. Private ownership will be there. Second, the private sector will have all the freedom to produce whatever they want to. And just think of it. Don't you think if freedom is given to private sector, in the process of earning more and more profit, because ultimately at the end of the day, private sector will produce for profit. Don't you think because of this model, there will be certain goods which will be produced which are harmful for all of us. Is the logic okay? Right? Because there is a freedom. Private sector will produce everything. They will decide what to produce. Sir, any example? Tobacco. Tobacco products. What about liquor products? Alcohol. Right? What about guns? What about weapons? Right? So I hope you understand these are harmful to us. But because there is a freedom to the private sector, in order to earn profit, they will end up producing such harmful goods and supplying them. Right? So freedom to produce, sell, as well as purchase. Please remember the third point as well. In capitalism, even the consumers will have the freedom to purchase. What do you mean by freedom to purchase? Let me take one example. Imagine in a country where government will decide everything. I'll come to that as well. Imagine in a country where government will decide everything, what to produce, how much to produce, etc. If the government will decide to stop producing tobacco products, if government will decide that henceforth no tobacco products, no one will produce, no one will sell them in the market. Even though you have money, will you have freedom to purchase tobacco product in such an economy? Think of it. Even though you have money, you can simply say, this is my hard earned money. Does it mean in this situation, you'll be able to purchase tobacco? You'll be able to purchase cigarettes, etc. No, because there is no freedom. Freedom in terms of purchasing. Limited freedom is there. Whatever is available, you purchase it. But in capitalism, no, you will decide because you have money, purchasing power is there. Companies will produce because you have money, you are demanding goods and services in the market. All of you okay with this? Right? Because think of it, does it make logically any sense to produce a good which has no demand in the market? Is the logic okay? Does it make any sense to produce a good which doesn't have any demand in the market? Absolutely no. Right? For example, let's say you're producing this bottle. Nobody is purchasing this bottle. There is no demand in the market for this bottle. And why are you producing? You are not the government. Why are you producing it? You are private sector. You want to incur losses. You will stop the production. That's it. So there is a freedom to produce, freedom to purchase as well as sell. Role of the government is very minimal, very minimal. I'll not say there is no government. Role of the government is very minimal. Minimal in the sense, government is there. Government will make policies to promote private sector. That is the role of the government. Very, very minimal role. Right? Profit motive is the agenda. That is the central theme of capitalism is profit motive. Everybody that is profit, private sector company is producing, selling to earn profit. That is basically the objective in the capitalism. What are the merits of such a model? What are the merits of such a model? One, there is no need for government intervention in the economy because private sector is there. Think of it. If private sector is there, don't you think because of competition, that's very important. Because of competition, role of the government will not be there. Government doesn't need to intervene in the market. That is a basic idea, right? So competition is very high. Government intervention is not required. Second, private sector, if they are using resources, if they are using labor, if they are investing, right, let's say to purchase machinery, don't you think they will make the best utilization of these resources? Utmost utilization, efficient utilization of resources. So utilization of resources is very, very efficient. Of course, because the logic is if you utilize the resources much more efficiently, you will earn more profit. That's a logic here. Third one, market becomes a very, very efficient because of competition, because of supply as well as demand. Next, production will increase. Investment is expected to increase. In fact, I've written it separately. Have a look at this. Investment in research and development, investment in new technologies, investment in purchasing, right? Let's say new machines, etc. Investment is going to increase. Employment is going to increase. Production of goods and services is going to increase. All of them are beneficial for the economy. Consumers will be given prominence. Consumers are given the prominence here. right? So these are certain very important merits of economy, which is basically called as the capitalism. Can we go forward now? Can we go forward? Explain purchasing once more, my dear. Because you have money, you will decide what you want to purchase in capitalism. Is it okay? Because you have money, you have the purchasing power. You will decide what you want to purchase, right? That is a purchasing power. Okay. What is R&D? R&D is basically research and development. It is research and development. Okay, research and development. Okay, done. Let me go forward. Having said so, is it the best model? Is it the best model for, right, any economy? For example, can Indian economy adopt capitalism? I said Indian economy is a mixed economy. So is capitalism always having only positive aspects related to that? Are there any concerns related to the model of capitalism? Of course, yes. Point number one. Think of it. In capitalism, owners will invest money. All of you okay? Owners will invest money. If they are investing money, profits will go to whom? Profits will go to the owners. Correct? Profits will go to the owners. As a result of this, can I say there will be income inequality as well as wealth inequality in the economy? I'll explain to you. Listen to me very carefully. There are two terms. One is called as wealth, and the other one is basically income. Right? Most of you think both are one and the same. No, both are not one and the same. Wealth basically refers to certain assets which are held by the people. Wealth refers to how much assets you have. Whereas income is what is your salary, what is your wages, etc. If I want to give you an example, imagine you are an IS officer. Okay, imagine you are an IS officer. You will have, let's say, two bungalows, your own, not the government given. Imagine you are an IS officer, you have two bungalows and 10 hectare of land. And monthly you will earn, right, let's say 1.5 lakh rupees salary. All of you okay with the difference between wealth and income? Let me know. All of you okay with the difference between wealth and income? Right? These are your wealth. This is part of your wealth. Whereas the salary that you earn is income. Right? Some of you are saying, no, my dear, what is the problem? Please tell me, what is the problem? Wealth refers to assets. Right? Don't you think 10 hectares of land is your asset? 1 kg of gold that you have is your asset. Can you say 1 kg of gold is your income? Then income tax officials will come to your home. Be very, very careful. Right? So, wealth is nothing but the total of assets you have. Income is how much is your salary. Now, let me know. Because of capitalism, will there be income inequality as well as wealth inequality present in the economy or not? Let me know. Because of capitalism, will there be income inequality? Yes. Will there be wealth inequality? Yes. Sir, any example? My dear USA. In case of USA, is there income inequality? Yes. Is there wealth inequality? Yes. Right. So, one, concentration of wealth. Concentration means rich people will get all the wealth like this. Right. Income inequality will also be present. Harmful goods are also produced in order to earn profit, such as tobacco, such as alcohol, right, such as machine guns, etc. And some of you asked me earlier, sir, if tobacco is harmful, if alcohol is harmful, why is the government of India allowing the sales of it? My dear, there is an ulterior motive. There is a motive for government, both center as well as state. They will impose and collect a lot of taxes. Simple. They will impose and collect a lot of taxes on the sale of tobacco products, on the sale of alcoholic products. That is the reason government will generally allow, I'll not say promote, never say government will promote, government will allow the sale of such harmful goods. Right? Class conflict. What do you mean by class conflict? Have you seen certain situations? Again, right? I'm not promoting it. Have you seen or not where in a village, in let's say certain society, people are divided into rich class as well as poor classes? Yes or no? Right? People are divided into rich class and poor classes. right? That is, poor people will not be allowed into this, will not be allowed to do this. You are not allowed to enter into this, etc., etc. So this classification is possible because of capitalism. And why is this classification happening? Because obviously in capitalism, there is a small population which is very rich, very rich, ultra rich. And on the other side, large population which is very poor. So this kind of a classification is done in the society. And as a result of this, have you seen certain situations where conflict will arise? Conflict will arise. For example, Naxalism, right? What do you think is the root cause of Naxalism? Think of it, right? What do you think is the root cause of Naxalism? That is basically the two classes. There is a clash between two classes, right? So I hope you understand. Class conflict arise because of capitalism. And finally, business cycle. There's a concept called as business cycle. Please read growth, slowdown, recession, etc. But please read the last line here, last part of the statement. Do not keep on asking what do you mean by recession now. Do not keep on asking what do you mean by slowdown now. I'll cover it. Where? Please look at the statement here. We will discuss this not today, but maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow. When I take up GDP, I'll tell you what you mean by recession. I will tell you what you mean by slowdown, growth, etc. Right? Do not worry about business cycle right now. We'll discuss it later. Done? Right? So this is basically the model of capitalism. So I've discussed what do you mean by capitalism? What are the expected positive outcomes? Merits means what? Positive outcomes of capitalism, as well as the concerns or issues related to capitalism. Now think of it and do let me know. Is it the best suitable scenario for Indian economy? Do you think Indian economy should adopt capitalism? In fact, this was asked by UPSC. This was asked by UPSC only in the mains examination, by the way. Do you think capitalism best suited model for Indian economy? Absolutely no. Why? Already there is huge amount of income inequality, wealth inequality. In this situation, you want to promote capitalism? Absolutely no. Absolutely no. It's not suited for Indian economy. Anyways, let me go to the second one. Right? Let me go to the second one, socialism. Okay, let me go to the second one, socialism. Okay, now what is the model of socialism? Model is very simple. If government will decide, government will decide how much goods are produced, what kind of goods are produced, right? Where the goods are sold, at what prices the goods are sold, etc. If the central problems of the economy are solved by the government, such a model is called as socialism. All of you okay with this? I'll repeat it again. It is a type of economy where it's a system where the government will decide what to produce, the government will decide how much to produce, government will decide at what price to be sold, etc. Such a model is called as socialism. Any problem with the model? Let me know. Any problem with the basic idea of a socialism? Now, what are the features? What are the features of socialism? What are the features? Again, please understand, today we do not have a country with pure socialism. Pure socialism you generally don't get. Right? The country which is very close or which was very close to socialism was former Soviet Union, USSR, former Soviet Union, China also. Right? They followed principles of socialism, but if you ask me, sir, today China, do they follow socialism? No, my dear. Today China doesn't follow socialism. Why? In China, is there private sector present or not? I hope you understand. Is there a presence of private sector in China today? Because earlier, right, in fact, a version of right, the idea of a socialism was used, which is called as Maoism. Now, don't start studying about Maoism for economics, not needed. But post 1985, they started opening up the economy. Right, they initially introduced the model called as a limited open door policy, etc., etc. But today, please understand, today, right, China is not purely a socialistic country, right? They follow lot of these features which are available in capitalism also. That's basically idea of a mixed model. So let me start. What are the features? The resources are owned by the government, right? Government will control the resources, government will decide, right, what to produce, who will produce, at what price they will sell, etc., etc. The central planning is done. What do you mean by central planning? The government will plan, government will implement, government will ensure that everything is achieved through government policies. Right? Everything will be achieved through government policies. That's a basic model of central planning, central command economy. Some of the times they will use the term command economy. What do you mean by command economy? Everything is done by the government itself. Everything is done by the government. Everything is controlled by the government. Right? So, what is the reason? Why does economy follow model of socialism? Understand the logic here. Earlier, there was capitalism. Right? Initially, to begin with, there was capitalism. Now, around the world, we started realizing that capitalism leads to income inequality. Capitalism leads to wealth inequality. Now, there was a concern. If you adopt a model of capitalism, wealth inequality is going to be there. Some population or very small population will become very rich. Large population will continue to remain poor. So, as a reaction, I'll repeat the statement. As a reaction, as an opposition to capitalism, there was one more model which is called as socialism. In socialism, the model said government will not work for profit. I hope you understand. Government doesn't run behind profit. Government will promote welfare. Is the logic okay with all of you? Government is not going to work for profit. Private sector will do that. Government will not run behind profit here. Government will promote welfare of the people. How? Government will invest. Very simple. For example, let's say hypothetically, this bottle has to be manufactured. Understand with an example. In capitalism, private sector, that is, let's say a businessman will invest money, set up a manufacturing facility, take away the profit. Whereas in case of socialism, government says no. Government will invest money, right? Let's say they will set up a company. The company will manufacture the bottle, sell it, right, to the people, maybe at affordable prices. Maybe there is no guarantee. Maybe at affordable prices. But government is not going to run behind profits here. That's a whole idea of a socialism, right? So government will promote socialism for promotion of welfare. Absence of competition because government will control everything. Private sector, if at all, in many of the economies, I hope you understand, many of the economies, private sector will not be allowed. Again, in socialism only. Or in many of the economies, the government will decide a very limited participation of the private sector. Okay. What is the advantage? What is the merit of socialism? First one, inequalities will not be there. Again, wealth inequalities will be reduced. Income inequalities, although they will be there. I hope you understand my point here. In case of socialism, we are trying to address wealth inequalities. Income inequalities will be present even in socialism. If you ask me, sir, how is that possible? How is that in case of socialism, income inequalities are present? Let me give a very simple example. Imagine there is a country which follows socialism. They will set up a company to manufacture this bottle. A simple question to all of you. Will every worker in the company be paid the same salary? Think of it. Will everyone in the company be paid the same salary? No, that's not possible. That's not right, correct also. So don't you think even in socialism, wealth inequalities may not be there, but income inequalities will be present? All of you are okay with this? Right? A manager will be paid a higher salary and a floor worker will be paid lower salary. Income inequality is there, but wealth inequality will not be there. Right? So the idea of socialism is to address the issue of wealth inequality. Allocation of resources based on the requirement of the society. Government will produce goods, will invest money based on what kind of goods or services are needed in the economy. Right? You might want tobacco, you might want, let's say, alcoholic products. If government feels that is not needed, they will not allocate resources to produce them. So government will decide what is needed for the society and they will allocate resources accordingly. Right? And promotion of social welfare is also an advantage of a socialism. But having said so, is it the best model then? Is socialism the best model? Should India shift to socialism? Are there any concerns? Let's address it. First one, red tapeism and bureaucracy. Red tapeism and bureaucracy. Now, before you start asking me, sir, what do you mean by red tapeism? Have a look at this. Red tapeism, rules or regulations or guidelines that are unnecessary and that will cause a lot of delays. Right? What do you mean by red tapeism? Very often the term red tapeism is used in the context of government also. Right? That is Indian government, state governments, etc. But what do you mean by red tapeism? There are certain rules or guidelines which are implemented by the government, but they will cause lot of delays. They will cause unnecessary delays. What do you mean by that? Sir, what do you mean by this? I'll give a very simple example. Earlier, I repeat, earlier, if you wanted to open a manufacturing facility in India, you are supposed to get certain approvals from the central government, certain approvals from the state government. Now imagine you're supposed to get, let's say, 10 approvals from the center and 5 approvals from the state. Don't you think you will have to run from one department to another department, one ministry to another ministry? Now think of it and do let me know, if this happens, will it cause unnecessary delays or not? Can it lead to corruption in the system? Can it lead to harassment of the business class, etc.? Right? Or let's say even people also. Right? Sir, how can you talk about private sector in socialism? I'll give you another example. Imagine in socialism only, government wants to allocate a house for you. Government wants you to construct a house. But for that to happen, government will say you'll have to submit 5 documents. Very simple. You'll have to submit 5 documents. Now, to get these 5 documents, you will have to go to 5 different authorities. And if you have any experience of getting documents from government officials, you will know how difficult it is to get these kind of documents from government officials. You will go to one government official, the government official will say, I'm busy, come tomorrow. You will go to another government official, that official will say, for this to be issued, I need one more document, please go get that other document. You will run to get the other document also, etc., etc. All of this will create delays, will create harassment, can also lead to corruption in the system. So all of you okay with the term red tapeism? Right? So because in socialism, everything is done by the government. Government means what? Officials, bureaucrats. Right? You people, once you become IS officers, IPS officers, you're part of bureaucracy now. So once bureaucracy gets a prominence, becomes so important, right? So that can lead to red tapeism. Lot of delays, lot of unnecessary approvals are required. It can lead to corruption in the system, etc. Right? So absence of incentives for efficiency, hence productivity will suffer. What do you mean by this? Right? Imagine only one company is there in the economy. To produce this bottle, only one company set up by government. Now tell me, if it is a government owned company, is it focused on efficiency? Will it be focused on, right, let's say, usage of resources efficiently? Generally that kind of a focus is absent. I'll give you examples also. Right? If you say no, sir, that's not possible, you're wrong, etc. Have you heard of the company BSNL or another company, Air India? Both, right? Both were earlier owned by government of India. BSNL even today is owned by government of India. Air India has been sold to Tata company. Now, one thing that you have read about BSNL and Air India, if you have read carefully, one thing that will be very common is both are loss-making companies. All of you will agree with me? Both are loss-making. Government of India realized that, okay, Air India continuously I'm incurring losses. What is the point of owning it? Let me sell it to somebody else. BSNL even today it is loss-making. Even today it is loss-making. Government of India last year, in fact, has announced a large amount of package to BSNL to provide it assistance to ensure that it will remain functioning. So I hope you understand. Again, please do not generalize my statements. Not generalize. Don't say, in that case, does every entity owned by government of India incur losses? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. And there's a particular reason why many of these companies which are owned by the government will incur losses. What is the reason? One is absence of competition. Right? And the most important reason is absence of competition. If government will decide only BSNL will function, no private sector is allowed, where is the competition to BSNL? Is the logic okay with all of you? Where is the competition? There is no competition. And if there is no competition, the company is might become very much relaxed. No competition, whatever we produce, people will have to purchase, etc., etc. So there could be a situation where because of right the government ownership, because of right social welfare measure, because of absence of focus on the profits, because of no competition, these companies might incur losses, right? So these are all basically the concern regarding the idea of socialism. And finally, limited freedom of choice. I told you, I gave you example of tobacco products earlier, alcoholic product earlier. If government will decide this is not needed for the society, we will remove them. This is not needed, we will simply remove them. Then in such a case, right, don't you think even though you might have money, you might not have the freedom to consume whatever you want. That freedom to purchase, right, that is limited. It is limited by the government policies. Done? Right? So these are certain concerns, or let's say the demerits related to the model of socialism. Right? So let me go forward now. But again, please understand, I was looking at some of your comments. Some of you are not, right, you are concerned about certain basic terms, right, which are not economic terms. If you ask me, right, let's say discuss about bureaucratic problems in India, my dear, I'm economic faculty, right? I'm an economics faculty. Bureaucracy comes under the concept of polity, comes under public, right? Our PSI are optional, right? Our public administration. So bureaucracy should not be discussed in economics. Someone are asking what is incentive, and there are two students who are asking what is income, right? So I hope you understand. These kind of terminologies are very common. Haven't you heard the term salary? Have you not heard the term income also? Right? So I hope you understand. So mixed economy, third model, mixed economy. After this, we'll take a break. Okay. What is the basically idea for mixed economy? Right. Best example for mixed economy is India. Let me start with the basic idea, then you'll understand. In case of India, can we see that in certain sectors, it is only the government of India which will provide the goods to the economy? Sir, any example? Nuclear energy. Think of it, nuclear energy. So far, right, the government of India tightly controls nuclear energy, or for that matter, until very recently, railways. Think of it, until very recently, railways. Who provided all the services in the railways? Government of India provided all of it. But now later we'll discuss this. Don't worry. Later, right, we'll discuss this. Now, even private sector entities are allowed in railways, right? Private sector entities are also allowed in railways. Why so? What is the advantage, right? To what extent it is feasible? We'll discuss that later. Have patience. This is my first class. But atomic energy, who will control the atomic energy sector in India? It is the government of India. Government of India controls atomic energy. So is it okay if I say in some of the sectors, who will produce goods and services, who will sell these goods and services? Only government of India will do that, or government, generally government will do that. On the other side, there are certain sectors where government is not present, only private sector is present. Best example, civil aviation. Have you heard the company names in civil aviation sector or civil aviation industry? For example, right, Air India. Air India until now was owned by government of India. Now it is private sector. Have you heard SpiceJet, Indigo company, etc.? In civil aviation market, every entity or every service provider is a private sector company. What is the role of government there? Government doesn't provide the services in civil aviation, only private sector does it now. So there are certain sectors, only private sector is present. Government has withdrawn completely from the sector. And the third one, there are certain sectors where both government and private sector both are present. Best example, telecom sector. Correct? In telecom sector, is it okay if I say both government as well as private sector are providing services? Anybody has a problem here? So I hope you understand. You will have a mix means what? Mixed economy means what? You will have a mixture of both government as well as private sector. Basic idea, right? In certain areas, both government and private sector are present. In certain areas, only government is present. In certain areas, only private sector is present. But please understand, very important, please understand this. Whether government will be present or private sector will be present, who will decide it? The decision is always with the government. Is it okay? The decision is always with the government. Right? For example, I'll give a very simple example. In telecom sector, Arey Baba, and some of you, please read, no, please read. General knowledge. General knowledge is very, very important. Right? There are two students who are asking, how come in telecom sector, both government and private sector are present? My dear, please tell me, BSNL, is it government owned entity or a private sector owned entity? Think of it. Right? BSNL, is it government owned, private sector owned? It's government owned. Whereas Geo, Reliance Geo, is it government or private? It's private. So don't you think both are present in the telecom sector? But please understand this. Whether private sector is allowed or not allowed, only government will provide or not provide, all of this, the control is with the government. For example, tomorrow can government of India announce, again, it's not going to happen. I'm just saying hypothetically. Tomorrow, can government of India announce that all the telecom sector companies, the government will purchase the ownership and only government will provide telecommunications? Can government do that? Do they have the power? Of course, yes. They have the power. Have they done it earlier? Some of us saying no. My dear, please understand. Government can do that. They have the power. I'll give a very simple example. Air India. Air India, right? You know that earlier it was owned by government of India. Earlier. Now it is owned by Tata company. But who started Air India? If you look at the evolution of civil aviation market, who started Air India in India? It was started by Tata company. So I hope you understand this. It was started by Tata company. The ownership was taken by government of India. And now again it has been sold to Tata company. So I hope you understand when I say, can government of India tomorrow basically start purchasing all the private sector companies ownership and say only I will provide the goods or services? They can do that. They can do that. Now, and please remember the term, the right term that you need to use is called as nationalization. There are two terms here. Please remember this. One is called as privatization. Second one is called as nationalization. Privatization and nationalization. What do you mean by nationalization? Ownership will be transferred from private sector to the government. Any problem here? Nationalization means ownership will be transferred from private sector to government. And privatization means ownership will be transferred from the government to private sector. Please remember this. Please remember this. Sir, any examples of privatization? Any example of privatization? Air India. Air India is the best example of privatization. Any example of nationalization? Air India. Earlier, government of India took over the ownership. But apart from Air India, any other example? Banking nationalization was done. What do you mean by banking nationalization? The banks which were owned by the private sector, the ownership was taken away by the government. Very simple. Ownership was taken away. Coal mining was nationalized. Right? So there are many examples in the history, or let's say economic evolution of India. Privatization also has been done. Nationalization also has been done. Okay. Now, Come back to the idea of a mixed economy. What are the features? Ownership of means of production is with both government as well as the private sector. Instead of government, I've written term public sector as well as private sector. Solutions to the economic problems such as who will produce it, what will be produced, how many goods will be produced, at what prices will be sold. Solutions will be provided by both private as well as government. Private sector has certain freedom, but overall control is always with the government. Private sector, no doubt, has freedom, but the control is always with the government. Government can change the policies. Right? What are the advantages or the merits of such an economy? One, we will be able to produce more and more goods and services, employ more and more people. Right? The overall production of Indian economy will start increasing. That is growth in terms of production. Second, balanced growth. What do you mean by balanced growth here? Just think of it. Can government of India, through their policies, promote growth, promote employment of weaker sections of society? Participate. Do let me know. Many of you are asking for break. After this, I'll give you a break. Please don't worry. Don't worry about the break. I'll repeat my question. Can government of India, through its policies, through its industries, promote employment, promote right production of goods and services in specific regions, can promote employment to certain sections of the society? Of course, yes. Right. So can I call it as a balanced growth? Can I call it as balanced? Balanced means all the sections of the society, all the sections of the society will be taken care. Just to borrow the phrase of the current government, again, just to borrow, सबका साथ सबका विकास. Have you heard of this? सबका साथ सबका विकास. So we will promote growth, right? But we will take care of everyone in the economy, right? That's a basic model of mixed economy. Proper utilization of resources, because private sector is present, will promote proper utilization. Okay. Government will protect the interest of all the sections of the society, whether you're poor, whether you're rich, doesn't matter. All the sections of the society, their interest will be protected by the government. Now, what are the concerns? What are the concerns? What are the demerits of such a model? Right? For example, India only. Right? We are following mixed economy right from 1948. So, what have been the concerns or issues related to this? One, public sector is given prominence because government is going to produce goods and services. Public sector will get prominence, but it's not guaranteed that public sector, that is nothing but the companies owned by the government, will always work efficiently. There is no guarantee of it. Right? The best example is Air India. Best example is BSNL. So there is no guarantee that even though government is going to provide certain goods and services, there is no guarantee that the companies owned by the government will be working efficiently. Right? There is no guarantee. Fear of nationalization. Right? That is generally, if government of India wants to do that, can they go for nationalization at any point of time? In the past, they have done it. In the future, also they could do it, or they may do it. So there could be a concern amongst the investors that government might change the policies and right transfer the ownership of private sector to itself. So there is a concern. I'm not saying they will do it. I'm saying there is generally a fear in a model such as mixed economy. And finally, income inequality as well as wealth inequality. Income as well as wealth inequality will be present in a model of mixed economy, right? Best example, India. So don't you think in case of India, there is income inequality as well as wealth inequality? Yes, both are present in Indian economy, right? So all these are certain demerits associated with mixed economy. Okay. Any problem with this? Why there is inefficiency in the public sector? My dear, it could happen because private sector, in order to earn profit, they might invest a lot of money, get better technology, use the resources much better, which may or may not be matched by the government owned entities. For example, take the example of Air India. Right? Don't you think Air India had aeroplanes? Of course, yes, they had aeroplanes. They had pilots, yes. They had, right, let's say other people to provide services, of course, yes. But even then, why were they incurring losses? Because they were not able to match in terms of quality, in terms of pricing, etc., the competition that was given by the private sector. So I hope you understand the logic here. Even though the government is present, there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee that public sector will always perform better. There's no guarantee. They might incur losses as well. Or else, best example, BSNL. If you want to understand, just ask your parents, or let's say your grandparents, how easy or difficult it was to get a telephone landline connection from BSNL, right? Let's say 25 years ago. Just ask them. 25 years ago, that is post 1995, 96, or even beginning of 2000, how easy or difficult it was to get a telephone landline connection from BSNL. Very, very difficult. Very difficult. Now, let's look at BSNL. You think of it. How many of you have a BSNL SIM card with you? How many of you are using BSNL landline services today? Most of you will jump to Geo. Most of you will take up a V or etc. etc. So I hope you understand. The government-owned entities may not be in a position to compete with the private sector. As a result of it, they might start incurring losses. Okay, done. Right. So these are the merits, demerits, as well as the features related to mixed economy. Okay. Any problem? Can we go forward? Can we go forward? Next is the concept of opportunity cost. Before that, let me take a break. Right. Or before that, let me address the questions. Right. Put forward by you people. Land means anything which is naturally available, but agriculture output is also produced or cultivated by us humans. Then how does it come under land? My dear, again the argument remains the same. Even if you don't cultivate, even if you don't sow the seeds, naturally the cultivation will take place. I hope you understand my point, right? You don't have to grow. Automatically in the nature, it will grow, right? So I hope you understand. Because of that, we call it as, or we consider that as a part of land. What do you mean by hectare? My dear, have you heard of acre and hectare? Acre and hectare. Have you heard of this or not? Right? Acre and hectare are the units of measurement. Are the units of measurement for a land. We measure the volume of the land in terms of acres or hectares. Okay. 2.5 acres is equal to 1 hectare. Sir, we can also make certain minerals in labs. Is it not violation in this concept? No, right? The idea of making them in the laboratory, right? For example, lab grown diamonds is a very novel concept. You understand, traditionally it is considered as a part of land only. Okay. Which economic system is better? Please understand, there is no concept of which is best, which is better, etc. It varies based on what country is looking to adopt this model. For example, let me ask you a very simple question. For Indian economy, between capitalism, socialism, and mixed economy, which one do you think is better suited for Indian economy? I hope you understand. For Indian economy, which is better suited, right? It is basically the idea of a mixed economy, which is better suited for us. So, from one country to another country, in what situation, what kind of social structure the economy has, based on that, the adoption will differ. Okay. Okay. What do you mean by privatization? Why privatization, nationalization will take place? From one time period to another time period, based on the government requirement, based on the policies of the government, either they can go for nationalization or they can go for privatization. Why they have done it, right? Why it was done in banking sector, why it is being done in railways, etc., etc., will understand when I take up railways as well as banking. Please don't worry. Fear of nationalism is merit also to work properly by the private sector? Not necessarily. Fear of nationalization, I've written it in the demerit because the private sector is going to invest a lot of money. Suddenly, if the government of India will change the policy and say, I will take over the ownership, I will take over the ownership and give you money, that's it, right? I'll take over the company and I'll give you money. And so private sector has invested a lot of money. They are searching for profits not only today but in the future also. But they are given money today and the ownership is transferred. So that is the reason I said fear of nationalization will always be present in private sector whenever you are following a mixed economy model. wealth inequality is concerned in socialism, please understand, even in socialism, you can purchase certain assets such as land because you have money. But the idea of a wealth which is created by using factors of production. I hope you understand this. Sir, in socialism, I earned a salary and I used it to purchase land. Done. Right? But in socialism, the wealth inequality that could be created because of usage of factors of production will be limited. You are not allowed to invest and start a company. Right? That kind of a wealth creation is not going to take place in socialism. Okay, done. Let's take a break then. Let's take a break. I'll restart at 7:05. I'll restart the session at 7:05 p.m. Okay, join me after 15 minutes. Okay, welcome back. Good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Okay, let's go forward then. Okay, let's go forward. Now, before I go forward, here is one important point. And this is my advice to all of you. Many of you try to read everything in detail in economics. Good, but not needed for UPSC examinations. Right? Mark my words. Many of you will try to read everything in detail in economics. Is inquisitiveness good? Is it curiosity good? Yes, definitely yes. No, absolutely no issues with that. But to that extent, is it required for UPSC examinations? Right? Absolutely no. Please don't waste your time. Why? Sir, why are you saying this? Many of you will criticize me for this. Why are you saying this? And many of you will ask me. I'll give you the reason to that. Right? Think of it. Do you think everybody who is writing UPSC examination, right, don't you think they'll be from different backgrounds altogether? Some of you will be from arts background, some of you will be from commerce, someone will be from let's say humanities, other forms of humanities, etc., etc. So can you expect everybody to understand technically the economics as a subject? All the technicalities of economics, technicalities, because people do PhD in economics, people read economics for 8 years, 10 years, even they cannot say that they know complete economics. So my recommendation, so my recommendation or advice to you people is just understand the basics, just go forward. Do not try to complicate economics. Do not try to read everything at a very deeper level. That kind of a knowledge for UPSC is not needed. Okay, now with that advice, let me come back to the discussion here. Next concept is opportunity cost. What is this opportunity cost? Right, let me start with the definition. The potential benefit or returns that are foregone. Foregone means what? Lost. The potential benefit or the returns that are foregone when one alternative is chosen over the other. Sir, what do you mean by this? Let me take an example and explain it to you. Now, let's understand this very simply. Let's start. Imagine you have 100 rupees. Imagine you have 100. There are two options available to you. One, you can take this 100 rupee, keep it in the form of a fixed deposit in a bank, or else you can take this 100 rupee and start a company. Start a company. Now, let's say hypothetically, you decided to start a business, which means, can I say, you have sacrificed an option to keep a fixed deposit? Answer to me. I'll ask you the question again. Imagine you have 100 rupee. You decided to start a business with that 100. Is it okay if I say by doing this you have sacrifice means foregone, lost an opportunity to keep a fixed deposit in the bank? Now let's say you took 100, started a business. After 1 year you have not earned any profit. No profit at all. You have not earned any profit. 0 rupees your profit. On the other hand, instead of starting a business, if you had kept the 100 rupee in the form of a fixed deposit, you would have earned 6 rupee interest. So now listen to me carefully and answer to the question. By choosing to invest in a business, have you lost an opportunity to earn 6 rupee here or not? I'll repeat the statement. By choosing to invest in the business, have you lost an opportunity to earn 6 rupees? This is called as opportunity cost. Very simple. This is called as opportunity cost. That is, there are two options available to you. Two options. You will choose one option and you will sacrifice the next best available option. Very simple. Okay, is the logic okay? You will choose between two options. One, you will sacrifice the next best alternative. As a result of this, what is the benefit you have lost? That is called as opportunity cost. On the other hand, let's say, on the other hand, let me take one more example here only. Imagine, instead of starting a business, you invested in the fixed deposit. Okay, instead of starting a business, you invested in the fixed deposit. Then can I simply say, because of your choice, you have earned 6 rupee interest here? Is the logic okay? Because of your choice, you have earned 6 rupee interest here. This is again opportunity cost only. But sir, how do I differentiate? In one situation, I've lost a 6 rupee opportunity, and in another, I've made an opportunity where I've earned 6 rupee. But how do I differentiate? Simple. Have a look at this. If you choose the FD option and you forego the second one, then your opportunity cost, because you have earned money, because you have earned more money, then opportunity cost is called as positive. Any problem with the statement 1 here? Let me know. Statement 1. By choosing to keep a fixed deposit and by sacrificing by sacrificing business opportunity, you have earned 6 rupee. I'll call this as a positive opportunity cost. Now, some of you will say, but what if I had earned a profit of 2 rupee here? Let's say instead of 0 rupee, what if I had earned 2 rupee profit here? Let's discuss that as well. Let's say you started a business. As a result of this, you sacrificed FD option, which means instead of earning 6 rupee, you are earning 2 rupee. Can I say your opportunity cost will be a negative 4 rupee in this example? Think of it. In this example, let's say instead of 0 rupee, you have earned 2 rupee. Then can I say opportunity cost will be minus 4? That is, you have sacrificed an option where you could have earned extra 4 rupee. Right? Some of you will ask, sir, what if I earned 8 rupee? Let's take that also. Instead of 2 rupee or 0 rupee, what if I earn 8 rupee after 1 year? Great. Let's take 8 rupee. So by choosing option 2, have you not earned extra 2 rupee here? Can I call this as positive opportunity cost? All of you okay with this? Let me know. All of you okay with this? Either you can take option 1, option 2, you can put numbers, right? You can calculate. But ultimately what you have done, you have chosen one option, sacrificed, that is foregone, sacrificed the next best available option. As a result of which, either you will have a positive opportunity cost or negative opportunity cost. Simple. Positive or negative. Right? Now, some of you will ask me, sir, in that case, can the opportunity cost be 0? Of course, that is also possible. All of you are okay with this? Can the opportunity cost be 0? Of course, yes. Opportunity cost can also be 0. So opportunity cost can be positive, can be negative also, can be 0 also. But next interesting question many of you will ask me is, sir, why should there be a concept of opportunity cost? Why should we even talk about opportunity cost? The reason is very simple. All of you by now must know that resources that you have are very much scarce. The resources which are available to you are very scarce. Because you have limited resources, you cannot invest everywhere. You cannot produce everything. You cannot purchase everything. So as a result of which, there will be always an opportunity cost. There will always be an opportunity cost, right? And that is opportunity cost can be positive. Opportunity cost can also be negative as well as 0 also. Now, two of you are asking, sir, any example where opportunity cost is 0? Best example, there is a type of good which is called as free good. There is a type of good which is called as a free good. Please remember this. The free goods always will carry an opportunity cost of 0. Sir, any example of a free good? Anything that is naturally available to us at 0 rupees. I'll give you example also. Then you can tell me whether this is a free good or not. Anything that is available in nature at 0 rupees for you, it is called as a free good. For example, please tell me, sunlight. Is there anybody in the classroom who says, sir, I have to pay money to get access to sunlight? What about water that is available? Again, don't say, sir, bottled water, etc., etc. Right? Let's say river water. Right? Let's say anything that is available naturally. Oxygen, for that matter. So I hope you understand. Anything that is available naturally to us at 0 rupees, it is called as a free good. Right? So for free good, always remember this. Right? The opportunity cost is 0 because you don't have to sacrifice anything. You don't have to pay money for this. You do not have to calculate anything. It is available free of a cost to you. Can we go forward now? Right, this concept is called as opportunity cost. Now, another name for opportunity cost is called as alternative cost. We calculate opportunity cost very simply because what we want to purchase, what we want to produce, what we want to spend money on, the wants that we have are unlimited. We want this, we want that, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, we want everything. But the amount of money that we have are always limited. The amount of resources that we have are always limited. And that is a precise reason you will have to sacrifice some and choose the one. And whenever you make a sacrifice and choose like this, there will always be an opportunity cost. Done? Right? So the formula for opportunity cost is basically return on option 1 minus return on option 2. Can we go forward now? Any problem with this? Can we go forward? Pandemic time free distribution of food government is also zero opportunity cost. My dear, please understand. Government is giving free food grains to you. But please tell me, for giving food grains to you, government will have to purchase money. Correct? I'm sorry, purchase and pay money. I'll repeat it. There are two students who are asking if the government will give us free food grains, is it a zero opportunity cost? Let me explain it. If government will give you a food grain, let's say 1 kg, government has to purchase food grain because government doesn't cultivate food grain. So government has to purchase food grain, right? Which means government has to pay money. But in return, government is not getting any money. Is the logic okay? Right? Government is paying money, but in return, government is not getting any money. So what is opportunity cost? Don't you think opportunity cost is negative here for the government? Is the logic okay? Right? For the government, opportunity cost is negative because they're spending money, but they're not getting any returns. So it is always negative in this situation. Okay? Done. So that is basically the concept of opportunity cost. Now, let me go to two very important laws. One is called as law of a demand. Please remember, whenever you talk about law of a demand, it is always from the consumer's perspective. Is the logic okay? Anybody has a problem? Please do let me know right now. Whenever you talk about law of a demand, what is the angle we are looking at? From whose viewpoint we are studying it? From the buyer's viewpoint. From the consumer's viewpoint, we are studying it. What about law of supply? Whenever you talk about law of supply, you are talking that from the context of sellers in the market, manufacturers, sellers in the market. So please do not confuse between both of them. Both are looking at different angles in the market. One is from the seller's viewpoint, another one is from the buyer's viewpoint or the consumer's viewpoint. Now let me start with the law of demand. Now, before you understand what is law of demand, whenever you talk about demand in the market, demand for a good, demand for a service, the demand for the product in the market is generally dependent upon various factors. Understand this very carefully. Demand for a product in the market is always affected, is always influenced by some factors. What are these factors? First one, price of the commodity. Right? For example, you want to purchase, let's say, this bottle. Let's say you want to purchase this bottle. Will the price of the bottle influence how many bottles you purchase or not? Of course, yes. It should not be very difficult. Of course, yes. Right? What about prices of related goods? Now, many of you will ask me, sir, what do you mean by a related good? Let me explain this. Listen to me very carefully. What do you mean by a related good? Now, always remember this. Whenever you talk about related goods, there are two types of related goods. Okay, there are two types of related goods. I'll go back to that. Please don't say you're skipping, etc., etc. I'll go back. Have patience. Right? Whenever you talk about related goods, there are two types of goods. Point number one, why are these called as related goods? These are called as related goods because price of one good will affect, will influence demand for the other good. Is it okay? Will influence a demand for another good. Any problem here? I'll explain this. Have patience. These are called as related goods. Any example of related goods? There are two types of related goods. One is called as a substitute good. Second one is called as a complementary good. Now let me start with the substitute good. Substitute goods are those set of goods which are consumed individually in place of one another. I'll repeat it. Substitute goods are those set of goods which are consumed individually, not combination, individually in place of one another. Sir, what do you mean by that? Best example, tea and coffee. Best example is tea and coffee. You will go to a restaurant. You will purchase either a tea or coffee. All of you okay with this? Even right now or during the break or before the start of the class, you people had either tea or coffee. Anybody in the class who says, no, sir, I'm a fan of combination of tea and coffee. I'll take half a cup of tea, half a cup of coffee, mix it well, then drink it. I'm pretty sure some of you, by the time I finish the example, you would have basically squinted your eyes and said, no, 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 that combination doesn't make any sense. So I hope you understand. Tea or coffee, right? So you don't combine them, you consume them individually. And tell me, you go to a restaurant, tea is not available. Many of you will simply substitute tea with coffee or not. Is the logic okay? In place of one another, instead of one another, right? You'll go to a restaurant, you will order for a tea, and the waiter, right, the person who is issuing the token says tea is not there. You'll simply say coffee. Or you will order for a coffee. Coffee is not available. You'll order for tea. So, in place of one product, you'll consume another product. Individually, these are consumed. These are called as substitute goods. Now, let me go to the point number two. Imagine you go to restaurant, price of tea has increased. Price of tea has increased. As a result of this, don't you think many people will substitute tea with coffee? Correct? You go to a restaurant, price for a cup of tea has increased. Will you not substitute tea with coffee? Of course, yes. Now, look at this. Price of tea has gone up. As a result of this, demand for coffee also has gone up. Can I call these as related goods? Let me know. Price of tea has gone up, as a result of which demand for coffee also has gone up. Can I call it as related goods? Of course, yes. Right? A definition is there right in the top of the slide. Please have a look at it. These are called as substitute goods. These are referred to as substitute goods. Come to the complementary goods. In case of complementary goods, these goods are group of goods which are consumed in combination, not individually. These are consumed in combination. Any example? Best example, printer and ink. Right? Car, petrol, right? Printer, ink, diesel, car, etc. Many combinations are there. Sir, how are these basically complementary goods? So let me explain. Imagine you go to a market, you want to purchase a printer. Okay? You go to the market, you want to purchase a printer. Now, imagine price of the printer has gone up. Okay, imagine price of the printer has gone up. Now, if the price of the printer has gone up, right, don't you think the demand for the printer, people purchasing printer automatically will go down. Yes or no? Let me know. If anybody wants to argue against it, give me what is your valid argument. I'll accept it. I'll change it. So you will go to the market, price of the printer has gone up. So if price of the printer has gone up, automatically the demand for the printer will go down. And if people purchasing printer will go down, tell me what will happen to the demand for the ink. The printers require ink. So the demand for the ink will also automatically go down. So in this case, can I say price of the printer is affecting demand for the ink? All of you okay? Right? Price of the printer is affecting the demand for the ink. Right? These are nothing but again related goods. Right? Is the logic okay? But remember one more very important point here. Please make observations now. I'll start with the statement, observe and let me know. In case of substitute goods, price and demand for the substitute goods move in the same direction. Correct or wrong? I'll repeat the statement by the way. In case of substitute goods, the price and the demand for the substitute goods move in same direction. Correct. Statement is correct. Why? I've written arrow marks are there, right? Arrow marks are also there. Please observe it. Price of tea is going up. As a result of this, demand for coffee is going up. So for these substitute goods, price and demand will move in same direction. Either move in the right, move positively like this, or move upwards or move downwards. One more statement. Same thing can I say in case of substitute goods, price and demand are positively related. Let me know. Same thing I'm writing in a different way. In case of substitute goods, price and demand are positively related. Anybody has a problem with this? Some of you are saying no, positively related means what? Tea's price goes up, coffee's demand goes up. Both are moving in the same direction. Tea's price goes up. The price of tea is going up. Demand for coffee is also going up. Right? Positive. Positive means same. If price of tea goes down, demand for coffee will automatically go down. Is the logic okay? Right? So I hope you understand. On the other side, complementary goods. Come to complementary goods now. In case of complementary goods, can I say the price and demand are inversely related or negatively related? Opposite direction. I'll repeat it again. In case of complementary goods, the price and demand are inverse. Inverse means opposite. Right? If price of the one product goes up, demand for complementary good will go down. If price of the one product goes down, demand for complementary good will go up. Inversely related or negatively related. Anybody has a problem with this? Anybody has a problem with this? What if both the commodities prices in case of substitute goods increases? What if, where is that question? What if both the commodities prices in case of substitute goods increases? Tell me what is the situation? Tell me what is the situation? How will they become substitute? You tell me. Substitute by nature. Substitute by nature means you're shifting as a result of price rise in one product, you're shifting to another product. That is by nature substitute. Okay. Okay, done. So this is basically the concept of complementary as well as substitute. Now, is it okay if I say both are, that is both substitute and complementary goods are nothing but related goods? Now you tell me after all of this, right? Is price of related goods, will it have an impact on the good that you want to purchase in the market? Of course, yes. Price of related good will also have an influence over the demand for a particular good in the market. Income of the consumer. This is also very important. You want everything. You want a Mercedes Benz. You want a Bugatti. You want a private jet. But don't you think what is your income will determine for what kind of a good you will have demand in the market? Okay. Right. So income of the consumer. And finally, the taste and preference. the taste and preference, right? So how my taste and preference will have an influence over the demand. For example, what if you are a vegan? Have you heard of this? What if you are a vegan, you're a vegetarian? Will that not determine what kind of goods you will consume in the market? Of course, yes. Right. So I hope you understand your taste and preferences will also have a huge impact on what kind of goods, right, you will consume or purchase in the market. So these are the various factors that will influence the demand in the market. Can we go forward? Can we go forward? Some of you are asking, give me another example, this example, that example. My dear, in the slide that is there, I've given multiple examples for both substitute goods as well as complementary goods. I've given at least two or three sets for all the both of the sets of goods, right? So again, please understand the logic behind it. If the price and demand are moving in the same direction, remember that, right? That is called as a substitute. If price and demand are moving in opposite direction, that is complementary goods. Okay. Sir, how car is a substitute good? My dear, car individually is not a substitute good. Cars are substitute goods. For example, I'll give a very simple example. Imagine you want to purchase a car which is manufactured by company A, but there is another manufacturer B who is also producing the similar, almost same features for a particular car. If the price of this car goes up, will you not substitute in the sense, if you wanted to purchase a car, rather than purchasing a car, you might end up purchasing B car. Does it make sense or not? Think of it, because many of you will say, how is that possible? You tell me, when you want to purchase a car, will you blindly go to a showroom, pay money and bring a car? Anybody does that? At least in India. Talk about India, right? Don't say, sir, in USA will do that, there's etc. You will go to first Tata showroom. You will talk to the seller there or a showroom person for 1.5 hours. You will test drive it, right? You're not satisfied or you want to try out. You will go to Mahindra showroom. You will try out everything. Then you will go to Volkswagen. Then you will go to Maruti, right? You will go to Nexa. Then you will make a comparison. And by the time, let's say, you had made up your mind, you wanted to purchase car A, but the price of this car A is increased by Tata company. So what you will do now, you will make a comparison and say B is better in this particular price range. A has become costly. So rather than purchasing A, I will purchase B. What have you done? Have you not substituted the product here? So I hope you understand. Cars, mobile phones, for example, mobile phones, different companies, substitutes. Okay. So these are the various factors that will influence demand in the market for goods. Now, let's go forward. What does the law of demand say? Law of demand states only if the price of the product changes. Underline the term only. All of you understand the term only? Only if the price of the product changes, then the demand will change in opposite direction. Is the logic okay? I'll repeat the law of demand. What does the law of demand says? Only if the price of the product changes. Why I'm stressing on the term only? Because the demand for a product can be influenced by your income. That doesn't change. Can be influenced by your taste and preference. That does not change. Can be influenced by price of related goods. That also doesn't change. Everything remains the same. Only price of the good changes. If the price of the good changes, then the demand will change in opposite direction. This is basically, right, the law of demand. Anybody has a problem? Right? Technically statement says, if all the other factors remain unchanged. There is a Latin term for this. Latin term, ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus simply means nothing else will change. All the other factors will remain unchanged. Now, many of you will ask me after discussing also, what do you mean by all the other factors here? Income, is it a factor? Yes, it will not change. Taste and preference, that's also a factor, doesn't change. Price of related goods doesn't change. So if all these other factors remain same, only price of the good changes, then the demand will also change, but in opposite direction. Which means, can I write it like this now? Price is inversely related to demand. Anybody has a problem with this? Price is inversely related to demand. Right? Price goes up, demand goes down. Price goes down, demand goes up. This is called as law of demand. How do I represent law of demand? I'll throw a graph at you now. Graphical representation. How do I represent law of demand in the form of a graph? This is how the law of demand curve is represented. A downward line, a downward sloping line, they will say. Along the x-axis will represent quantity. Along the x-axis will represent quantity. Along y-axis will represent price. So does it make sense to you? Let me take an example here. Imagine these are the 2 points. Okay, just understand this very carefully. Imagine these are the 2 points. Let's say this is price P1, this is price P2. This is a quantity Q1 and this is quantity Q2. Now, please look at the graph and tell me if the price is changing, is the demand changing? Point number one. And second, when the price changes, is the demand changing in opposite direction? Of course, yes. Now, before you start asking me, does it happen always? Is it applicable to all the goods in the market? Not necessary. I hope you understand this. For majority of the economy, this is applicable. There are certain exceptions. We'll discuss that. Don't worry. There are certain exceptions. Right? What are these exceptions? Why does it happen? I'll explain to you, but have patience for that. But generally, what is observed? This is how the law of demand will actually work out. Now, question is why? Why does it always happen? Why does it happen that law of demand, right? Price and demand are inversely related. Let me explain to you. Let me explain to you. Understand this carefully. The first reason that this happens is the purchasing power will change. First reason is purchasing power automatically will change. How so? Let me start with a very simple example. Imagine you have 100 rupees. Imagine you have 100 rupee cash. Now, price for a product is 20 rupees. Can I simply say at 20 rupees with 100 rupee, you'll be able to purchase 5 units of this? All of you are okay with CSAT numbers? At 20 rupees per unit, having 100 rupees, you'll be able to purchase 5 units of this. What if the price of this goes up to 25? From 20, it will increase to 25. And the cash you have still same 100. At this particular price, how much quantity will you be able to purchase? You'll be able to purchase only 4 units. So as the price goes up, what has happened to the demand? What has happened to the demand? Demand has gone down. Can you do this vice versa also? Opposite. That is, if the price goes down, what will happen to the demand? Demand will go up. So any problem with this? Right? Any problem with this? Right? So this is one reason why the purchasing power changes and the demand will also change. Second very important reason. Second very important reason is this happens because people will start substitution. All of you know the substitution goods now. This will happen because consumers will start substitution. Sir, what do you mean by that? Apply the same logic for tea and coffee. Apply the same logic for tea and coffee. If the price of the tea goes up, demand for coffee will also go up. Correct? If the demand for coffee will go up, automatically what does it mean? It means people are substituting tea with coffee. Means demand for tea is going down. Right? That is right the basic assumption here. Can we go forward? Any problem with this? Can we go forward? So there are multiple reasons as to why this kind of observation or this kind of an event takes place whenever the price of the product changes. Again, I'm repeating. Many of you are asking me the same question. Again, I'm repeating. Are there any exceptions to this? Does it always happen? No, there are certain exceptions. I will discuss that Have patience. Have patience. I'll explain that also. Don't worry about it. Done? So demand should go down for coffee. My dear, listen to me. Listen to me very carefully. If price of tea goes up, if price of tea goes up, let's say until now, tea and coffee 10 rupee, 10 rupee. Now tea will become 12 rupee per, right? Let's say cup. As a result of this, don't you think people will start substituting tea with coffee? So the demand for coffee will go up. That's the reason we talk about substitutes, right? We have discussed substitutes. So if the price of tea goes up, demand for coffee will go up. Demand for tea will go down. Okay, done. So this is the reason why, in case of law of demand, we say price and demand are inversely related. Can we go forward now? Can we go forward? Any issue? What are exceptions? Have patience. I'll discuss. Don't worry. What is purchasing power? With the amount of money you have, how many goods can you purchase? That is purchasing. Okay. Next one is the law of supply. Next one is concept of law of supply. What is this law of supply? Law of supply states that if every other factor remains the same, if every other factor, that is again ceteris paribus, if every other factors remain unchanged, and if the price of the good changes, then the supply will also change, but in the same direction. Please understand the difference here. I'll repeat it again. What does the law of supply state? If every other factors remains the same and only the price of the good changes, then the supply will also change, but in the same direction. That is, in simple terms, price is directly proportional to supply. If price goes up, supply goes up. If price goes down, supply also goes down. Why does this happen? Why is that price and supply will move in the same direction like this? You tell me. If nothing else changes, that is, whatever taxes are imposed by the government doesn't change, cost of labor does not change, cost of raw material does not change, nothing changes, but the price of the product goes up, will your profit earning go up or not? I'll repeat the statement, right? I'll repeat it again. If cost of the labor doesn't change, right? The cost of raw materials same, taxes same, nothing changes. But until now you are selling a product at 100, but now you will sell the product at 105. The price goes up. Now many of you will ask me, sir, how can the price go up? What if the demand for the product is very high in the market? Simple question. What if the demand is very high? Right? Demand is very high, supply is limited. Don't you think prices will start increasing? So price will go up. And when the price goes up, nothing else changes. What about your profit? What about your profit? Your profit will also start increasing. Now, if you are going to earn more profit, will you supply more or supply lesser? Simple logical question. Will you supply more or supply lesser? Automatically, you will supply more. Does it make sense to you? Anybody says it doesn't make sense, let me know. Right? You will supply more because you know you can earn more profit. Right? That is basically law of supply. Any problem with this? Any problem with this? Again, some of you are saying, but sir, on this side, that side, have patience. Have patience. I know. Many of you are saying, sir, but if the prices go up, demand should go down. Please understand. Now I'm discussing only law of supply. What will happen actually in the market, I'll discuss that. You should have patience, but right now I'm only discussing law of supply. Okay. So in case of law of supply, what does it say? If nothing else changes, only the price of the product goes up, and it does happen. What happens in reality, I'll show it. Just have patience. If the price of the product goes up, automatically means the supply will also go up. That is a law of supply. What actually happens in the market, I'll tell you. Have patience. Is it okay? Can we go forward now? What are the factors on which supply will be affected? Cost of raw materials, cost of labor, right? And in fact, there are two terms here, taxes and subsidies. Taxes and subsidies. Let me connect it to current affairs. Taxes means what? Whenever you purchase a product in the market, you will pay GST. All of you heard of GST? You might not know what is GST. Don't worry, we'll discuss that. We'll have a detailed discussion on GST. Not today. But all of you know that whenever you purchase something from the market, you're paying GST. Now, can the market price of the product go up because of GST also? Of course, yes. Right? But in this case, what is the law of supply says? It says GST is not increasing the market price. Because of GST, market price is not increasing. That is what ceteris paribus means. What about subsidy? Right? What about our subsidy? What do you mean by subsidy? Let me give you a very simple idea first. We'll discuss subsidies separately. There's a chapter on it. We'll discuss it. But whenever you come across the term subsidy, right, I'll give you certain concepts. Understand this very carefully. Subsidy means assistance that is given by the government. Simple. It is the assistance that is given by the government, help given by the government. The help given by the government can be in the form of cash, can be in the form of non-cash also. It can be in the form of non-cash. I'll give you examples. In case of non-cash, they will use the term kind subsidy. Instead of non-cash, they will use the term kind subsidy. For example, have you heard of PM Kisan scheme? Let me know. Have you heard of PM Kisan scheme? Very, very famous now. Elections are coming. Please be very careful. Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Nidhi. Under this, Government of India is providing 6,000 rupees for certain farmers. Now tell me, can I call this as a cash subsidy or not? Simple. Can I call this as a cash subsidy? Of course, yes. On the other side, right, Government of India will also provide you 5 kg of food grains, 5 kg of food grains per month free of a cost. Free of cost. Now tell me, this second example, can you call this as a cash subsidy? Second one, can you call this as a cash subsidy? No, this is kind subsidy. Is the logic okay? Kind subsidy. So in the same way, please understand, I'm giving you examples in agriculture sector. Government can also provide subsidies for manufacturers. Is the logic okay? Government can provide subsidies for manufacturers also. Right? So subsidies given by the government doesn't change. Right? The taxes does not change. The raw material cost does not change. Labor cost does not change. Nothing changes. Only the price of the commodity goes up, as a result of which supply will also change. That is law of supply. How do we represent the law of supply? How do we represent law of supply? Law of supply is represented in this format, wherein, please remember, the line or the curve, I will use the term line, you can use the term curve also. So the line or curve is moving upwards. We'll call this as upward sloping curve. So law of demand, a curve which goes downwards like this. Law of, right, basically supply, it is an upward sloping curve. Any problem with the law of supply and law of demand? Do not ask me about exceptions. I will talk about exceptions. Have patience. Do not talk about, right, both law of demand and supply. That is the next topic. I'll discuss that. Then can we go forward now? Because of law of supply, it says, right, whenever the prices of the commodities or prices of the products will go up, assuming nothing else changes, the supply will also go up. Price and supply will move in same direction. Whereas a law of demand, price and demand are going to move in opposite direction. Okay, can we go forward now? Okay, done. Let me go forward. Right, I'll come back to this. Many of you are asking both of them how they are related, etc., etc. But this happens, but that happens. I'll come to your point only now. Right? I'll come to your point only. Many of you are saying, right, and your argument is valid. All I was saying was have patience. I'll discuss that also. Some of the students try to correct me by saying, sir, you said price of the product goes up from 100 to 105. and you're saying supply will increase. But on the other side, if the price of the product goes up from 100 to 105, demand should go down. Yes, you're correct. But then I was only discussing law of supply. Now let me discuss both law of supply, law of demand, same in the market. At the same point of time in the market, how does the market behave? Let me show it. This is a concept of market equilibrium. Now please have a look at it. And before I explain, there are two students, I believe, from statistics background. From statistics background, their argument is, sir, we have learned how to plot x-axis, how to plot y-axis, right? This is a dependent variable, this is an independent variable. Please remember, whatever concept you have learned in statistics, that is correct. But in economics, the graph, first time when it was drawn like this only. What do you mean by that? Let me give a very basic idea. We generally don't discuss, it is not required for general studies paper, but optional paper, there's a basic idea. There's a concept called as dependent variable and independent variable. There is this idea called as a dependent and independent variable. Let me give you a basic idea. In case of law of demand, in case of law of demand, in case of law of demand, what do we say? As a result of change in the price, very important, please remember this. As a result of change in the price of a product, demand will change in opposite direction. Meaning what? Price changes. As a result of this, demand changes. Be very careful. Right? Price changes, as a result of which demand changes. You cannot simply say, I repeat, you cannot simply say when the demand goes up, price will go down. Or you cannot simply say when the demand goes down, price goes up. You cannot do that because it will be wrong. Why? Think of it. Please think of it. You can say, I repeat, you can say price goes up, as a result of this demand will go down. But think of it, does it make sense if you say when the demand for a product goes down, price will go up? Is the logic okay with all of you? Don't say, sir, anyways, one is moving up, one is moving down, I will mix and match. And no, that's not correct. It doesn't work out. Logically, it doesn't make sense. If price goes up, right, we'll say in this case, price is independent variable. Is the logic okay? Price is independent variable and demand is dependent variable. This should be very easy for you. Now, price is independent. Price is changing, as a result of which it is affecting demand in the market. So this is a concept. Please remember this. Please remember, I don't expect UPSC to go to this particular extent. But anyways, couple of students were asking. But according to statistics, right, price, which is right, a dependent variable should be here, should be there, etc., etc. When the first graph was drawn for law of supply and law of demand, this is how the graph was drawn, and we have continued with the same graph. And second question, many of you are asking, sir, in the graph that you have given, the lines are straight. The demand curve is straight, supply curve is straight. Is it always straight? Not necessary. Not necessary. Can you have a demand curve like this? Let me know in the comment section now. Can you have a demand curve like this for a particular product? It is possible or not? And if you ask me, sir, what is the difference? It's not a straight line. Generally, the graphs are given like this. It's not a straight line, it's a curved line. Can you have a demand curve? Of course, yes. You can have a demand curve like this also. Supply curve also, can you have it in this way? Not exactly a straight line, but a curve like this. Of course, yes. Right. So I hope you understand. Don't be under the assumption that it's always a straight line like this. No, it can be absolutely a curve also. Okay. Done. Now come to the point here. What is the concept of market equilibrium? Point number one. Until now, we have discussed law of demand separately, law of supply separately. But in the market, don't you think buyers and sellers both are present, as a result of which We need to study both the curves simultaneously. Yes or no? Think of it. Until now, I discussed law of demand separately, law of supply separately. But in reality, what happens? Sellers and buyers both are present in the time. When sellers are there, buyers are also there. And because both are present at the same point of time, let's put both the law of demand, law of supply in the same graph. Let's try to understand. Point number two. If one line, just go back to your high school, coordinate geometry. If one line goes downwards and the other line goes upwards, do you remember one point that your faculty or teacher must have taught you? The maths teacher would have told you, if two lines are moving in different angles, right, in different angles like this, they will intersect at one or the other point. As long as these two lines are not parallel lines, as long as these two lines are not parallel lines, they will have to intersect at each one point. That point is called as market equilibrium. Simple argument. One is going down and the other one is going upwards. They will have to intersect each other. That intersection point is called as market equilibrium point. Why do we call it as a market equilibrium point? Understand this. The market equilibrium point simply represents a situation in the market wherein whatever is the quantity supplied, I repeat, whatever is the quantity supplied, the demand is also same. I'll repeat it, right? Don't be confused. Whatever is the supply, right? Quantity. If you're supplying 100 units, demand 100 units. If you are supplying 200 units, demand is 200 units. If you supply 500, demand is 500. Because the demand is equal to supply. Again, I'm talking about quantity. Because the demand is equal to supply, we'll call this as equilibrium point. Any problem with this? We'll call this as equilibrium point. Now, coming to the questions that many of you are asking, sir, in case of law of supply, you said if the price goes up, supply will go up. Absolutely right. But on the other side, what does the law of demand state? The law of demand says if the price goes up, demand should go down. Now, look at what actually happens in the market. If you apply the logic, in case of law of supply, let's say this is price of 10 rupees. I'll take numbers so that you understand it. Let's say 10 rupees. The price of the product goes up to 15 rupees. Price of the product goes to 15 rupees. What does law of supply say? Law of supply says the quantity supplied has to increase. Let's assume at equilibrium point it was 100. Now it is 150 here and 50 here. So apply your coordinate geometry now. From 10 rupee it has increased to 15 rupees. At 15 rupees, what has happened to the demand? This is a point on demand curve. What has happened to the demand? Demand has fallen to 50 units. All of you okay? The demand has fallen to 50 units. Whereas the law of supply says supply will increase. The supply has increased to 150 units. Now, don't you think there is a surplus supply of 100 units in the market? Let me know. There is a surplus supply of 100 units in the market. That is, whatever is the demand, extra 100 units are present in the market. Now, if there is a higher supply in the market, what do you think should happen to prices? Think of it. Right? What do you think should happen to prices? If there is excess supply in the market, what do you think will happen to prices? Don't you think prices will start falling down again? Correct? Prices will start falling down. Prices will start going down. But before you realize, because what does the law of supply state now? Let's start applying. What does the law of supply state? If prices will go down, what should happen to the supply? What should happen to the supply? Supply should go down. And in case of law of demand, if prices will go down, what do you think will happen to the demand? Demand will start going up. So on one side, supply is going down. On the other side, demand is going up. So suddenly, without realizing what will happen in the market is, you will reach a position where the prices will fall down to 5 rupees. Right? Let's say hypothetical situation. Prices will fall down to 5 rupees. And when prices will fall down to 5 rupees, demand will become 150 units. Demand will become 150 units. And because the prices have fallen, supply will become how much? 50 units. Now look at the situation. Demand is for 150 units, supply is for 50 units. Can I say this is a shortage that has been created in the market? There is a shortage which has been created in the market. And when there's a shortage, that is demand is higher than supply, don't you think prices will start moving up all over again? This is how actually the market will work out. Is the logic okay? This is how in reality the market will work out. Any problem with this? Can we go forward? Many of you are saying any example, my dear. Have you seen the onion prices very recently? Let me know. Let me see how many of you are actually connected to the ground. Have you seen onion prices? Or the best example, have you seen tomato prices? Think of it. Have you seen tomato prices? Couple of months ago, tomato prices reached 200 rupees, 250 rupees. Why do you think that happened? There are many other factors, right? Again, I'm not entering into the details of it. There were many other factors. But don't you think one of the factor was supply and demand mismatch? Supply and demand mismatch. When the prices went up to 200, farmers, right, realized that they will be able to earn more. Lot of farmers started cultivating tomato. And see the tomato prices today. See the tomato prices today. The prices of tomato are 10 rupees per kg, 15 rupees per kg, 20 rupees per kg. Why? The demand, right? The demand is, right, certain amount, but the supply is very, very high. Supply is very, very high now. As a result of which price have crashed. So again, don't worry about all of this. Logic is very simple. Law of demand, law of supply, we have discussed separately. But if you apply both of them simultaneously in the market, price goes up. Even if you have not understood the graph, let me explain it to you. Many of you are saying very, very difficult, right? Not able to understand, etc. Let me give a very simple example. Imagine the price is 10 rupee, price has increased to 15 rupees. Point number one. If price has increased to 15 rupees, what will happen to supply? What will happen to supply? Supply will increase. That is what law of supply says. What will happen to demand? Demand will decrease. Now you tell me, supply increases, demand decreases. Don't you think there is a more supply in the market? Yes or no? At least this should be very simple to you, right? There is more supply in the market. We'll call this a surplus. And when there is a surplus supply, what will happen to prices? Prices will start decreasing. Any problem here? Very simple logic. Prices will start decreasing. On the other side, let's say prices will fall down to 5 rupees. Prices will fall down. As a result of this, what will happen to supply? What will happen to supply? What does the law of supply say? Supply should come down. And when the prices will fall down to 5 rupees, what should happen to the demand? Demand should go up. Correct? Now you tell me, if demand starts going up, supply is lower, don't you think there is a shortage in the economy? Correct or not? There is a shortage. Right? There's a deficit in the economy. And when there is a deficit, what do you think will happen to prices? Prices will start increasing. That's it. Right? So same thing, whatever is there in the graph, same thing I've written here. Right? This is how the market will actually behave. Right? Market, this is how the market behaves. Okay? Done? So can supply and demand move in the same direction? Of course, yes. They can move in the same direction. Yes. Can I give you an example? During pandemic, think of it. Can the supply and demand move in the same direction? Of course, yes. There are many situations where both of them can behave in the same way. Right? Any example? Pandemic situation. For example, the supply as well as the demand for mask. Supply and demand for, let's say, sanitizer, etc. Okay. But please understand how the prices will behave, how the prices will move. you cannot simply determine by simply saying supply and demand are changing. I'll give a very simple example, right? Think of this. 10 units, demand is a 10 units. Supply and the demand is 10 units. Supply increases to 11, demand increases to 20. Let me know. I'll ask questions now. Supply increases to 11 units, demand increases to 20 units. You tell me now. In this situation, prices will increase or not? Correct? Prices will start increasing. I'll ask you one more question. Supply will increase from 10 to 20. Demand will increase from 10 to 11. Will the prices increase now? No. So I hope you understand this. Right? So it's not just that supply is increasing, demand is increasing or decreasing like this. Based on that, you cannot come to a conclusion. Everything is dependent on quantity in the market. Okay? Done? Right? So this is basically the concept of market equilibrium. Now, many of you are asking, are there any exceptions to all of this? Right? Will this happen always? Not necessarily. I told you there are exceptions. Let me tell you about it. First one, whether the substitutes are easily available or very, very difficult. Don't you think that will determine, one, whether the demand will change? If yes, how fast it will change? How the prices will change? So what do you mean by that? Right? Let's say I'll give a very simple example. Tea and coffee. Now, don't you think even if there's a small change in the price of tea, people will easily substitute that with coffee because coffee is easily available? Correct? Anybody has a problem with this? Coffee is very easily available. That's the reason people substitute it. But what if there is no substitute available? Simple question. What if there is no substitute available? In that case, do you think even if the prices are changing, people will start substituting it very easily? Do you think demand will change very fast? Not necessarily. Is the logic okay with me? Right? Let me know. Is the logic okay with this? First one. Second one, whether the good is essential or not essential. Let me take a very simple example. Salt. Please tell me, this particular product salt, very peculiar, very interesting product by the way. Please think of it and let me know. And in fact, you can write the term salt as an example of first one also. Is there any substitute for salt as a product? Let me know. Is there any product which is a substitute for a salt? Right? That is, you have seen in your home, instead of putting salt, your mother or your father or yourself, when you're cooking, you will substitute salt with anything else. No, you will not find it. And salt, don't you think that's an essential product? Essential, very much essential for us. Medicines, very much essential. The mask during pandemic, essential product. Sanitizer, vaccination during pandemic, very much essential. So you tell me, if the prices of essential product changes, will the demand change? Think of it. Will the prices of essential product changes, will the demand change? For example, let's say price of the salt goes up or let's say falls down by 10%. Let's say, again, I'll give you one more very important current affairs example, petrol. Again, don't talk only about yourself. Don't tell, sir, I did this, I did that. Talk about overall economy. Right? You tell me, if the price of the petrol changes, do you think the demand for petrol will go down in Indian economy? Again, talk about economy. Don't talk about yourself. Right? You alone are not the demand generator in the economy. You're part of it. Right? So what about salt? If the price of salt goes down by 10%, will you purchase more salt? Has anyone done that? Let me know. If the price of the salt goes down, you'll purchase more. No, you don't do that. Right? Some of you are saying yes. That's very interesting, by the way. Economics says otherwise, but some of you are saying yes. Right? Please check. Please check with your parents. Right? I believe you don't know the answer because you have not purchased. You have not paid from your pocket and you have purchased. So please ask your parents. Have they purchased more salt when the price has gone down? Or have they purchased lesser salt when the prices have gone up? No, people don't change the consumption pattern for salt. I know that. Economics say that. Right? So I hope you understand this. For salt, for medicines, for petrol, these are essential commodities. Don't you think demand doesn't change by much? Is the logic okay? Demand doesn't change by much. Now, in this case, think of it. Think of it. For products such as salt, what do you think is a demand curve? Do you think it is a downward sloping curve? Think. Start thinking. This is how UPSC can test you. Right? If UPSC will give you a statement, just like any other product, for salt, the demand curve is sloping downwards. Statement will be wrong. Demand curve is vertical for salt. Is it okay? Demand curve is vertical for salt. Quantity demand doesn't change, right? Prices might change. Quantity demand doesn't change. It remains vertical like this. Is the logic okay? Let me know. Is it making sense to you people or not? Right? Last 20 minutes are there. First class, I know too much. Suddenly too much economics. But my recommendation is try to connect with basics, day-to-day affairs. Automatically you'll understand. Right? So that's the reason. Please remember this. Third one, impact on the budget. What do you mean by impact on the budget? Right? Think of this. If price of a product changes, a house immediately will not change the demand for the product. Why? In the house, whenever anybody, it could be the wife, it could be the husband, it could be you, until and unless you understand what is the impact of this price change on your overall expenditure. I've written the term budget here. Budget is overall expenditure. Unless you understand what is the impact of that on your overall expenditure, many of you will not change the demand. Is the logic okay? Does it make sense to you or not? Right? Until unless you understand what is the impact of that on your overall expenditure. Budget means overall expenditure. Right? You will not change the demand. Why? You must have heard the term jugaad. Very famous in India. Jugaad. In houses, what they do is, if price of one product goes up, they will try to adjust that with price of another product. Correct? Have you seen this being done in your house or not? For example, I'll give a very simple example. In many of the states, electricity bills, house electricity bills have come down after recent elections. Correct or not? Delhi, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, household electricity bills, has it come down or not? Yes. And because the household electricity bills have come down, don't you think now the houses will not be too much concerned about a small change, or let's say a change in price of another product, because they have savings in the form of electricity bills? Does it make sense to you? Right? So I hope you understand. So all again, please understand, sir, my house bill has not changed, my bill has not changed. Some of the state governments have done it, some of the state governments are yet to do it. And if you have seen the trend, many state governments will start doing it now. But anyways, I hope you understand, right? The logic is the houses will not immediately change the consumption until and unless they understand what is the impact of that on their overall expenditure. That is the point. Okay. Goods which have shorter shelf life. Now, what do you mean by shelf life? Expiry date. Very simple. Expiry date. Let's start applying the logic now. Imagine a farmer is there. Okay, imagine a farmer is there. The farmer has cultivated tomatoes. Point number one, tomatoes will start losing their quality within couple of days. Correct? Anybody says no, sir, you are wrong. The tomatoes will start losing their quality. Right? That is, they will start rotting very soon, in couple of days, against, let's say, paddy, against wheat, against pulses. Expiry date, shorter shelf life. Now imagine the prices of tomatoes are going down. Imagine at the same time prices of tomato are going down. Do you think the farmer, rather than selling tomatoes, will start storing tomatoes in the home? Do you think that's possible? Sir, any other example? What about green leafy vegetables? What about green leafy vegetables? Coriander, right? Methis, etc., etc. They have very, very short shelf life. You sell it today, tomorrow, otherwise gone. So whatever is the price, whether it is going up, going down, you cannot store them. You'll have to sell them, right? So don't you think this is violating law of supply, right? Very rare articles such as paintings and coins. Very, very rare articles such as paintings and coins, right? Very rare coins, right? Don't you think the prices for them are very, very high? Very, very high, irrespective of supply of it, because supply is very, very less. Supply is very, very less. Demand is very, very high for that, right? So despite of all of these, right, despite having very less supply, you cannot change the supply, etc., they will not follow law of demand and law of supply. Okay. And finally, future expectations. What do you mean by future expectation? What does your mind say about how the prices will behave in the future? I'll ask you a very simple question, you will only tell me. All of you, please tell me, what do you think will happen to tomato prices in the next 2 weeks? Think of it. What do you think will happen to tomato prices in the next 2 weeks? Tomato prices are going to remain in the lower range only, 10 rupee, 12 rupee, 14 rupees, etc. Right? Or else, I'll give a very simple example. Imagine there is a particular city and government of India is considering constructing an airport in this part of the city. Now, please tell me what will happen to prices of land in this region. Simple. What do you think will happen to prices of land in this region? Right? Don't you think your analysis, right? Your economist brain will say prices are going to increase now. Can I call this as a future expectation? So I hope you understand. Future expectation means you're basically analyzing how the prices are going to move in the future based on the data that is there with you. And that will also, right, they will not follow the law of demand. That will also defy the law of demand. Let me prove it to you. Imagine the price of tomato now. Imagine, I don't expect that to happen. Imagine price of the tomato will start hitting 80 rupees in this week. Next week it will become 100 rupees. Please tell me, don't you think based on this and past experience, your mind will say after 3 weeks the price will become 150 rupees per kg? Correct or not? Right? All of you agree with me? Based on the past experience, right? Your mind will say today it is 80 rupees. After 1 week or after 2 weeks, it will become 150. So rather than purchasing 1 kg, you might purchase 1.5 kgs. Rather than purchasing 2 kgs, you might end up purchasing 2.5 kgs, 3 kgs, etc. So when the prices are going up, you are also, right, increasing the demand in the market. And so that is basically how future expectations will influence demand in the market. All of you okay with this? Can we go forward? Sir, but in both the laws of demand and supply, all the other factors are said to be constant. Then why are we studying exceptions? My dear, law of supply, law of demand. I'm sorry, law of demand. Do you think that is applicable to salt? Think of it. Do you think law of demand is applicable to salt? No, law of demand is not applicable to salt. Right? Because the demand for salt almost remains same. It almost remains same. Doesn't change by much. It's not applicable. That's a reason. That's a reason. Lot of exceptions are there to both law of demand as well as law of supply. Okay? Done? Okay. Next, right? The movement along the curve as well as shift of the curve. The movement as well as shift of the curve. Now, what do you mean by movement? What do you mean by shift of the curve? Let me start with the basic point here. Understand this very carefully. Right? Understand this. Now, let me tell you, how do we draw a curve in the first place? Again, is it required for UPSC? Is it needed for UPSC? No. But I need to tell you what do you mean by the shift, what do you mean by movement. We draw this demand curve based on the schedule for demand which is calculated given by the companies. Very simple. Every supplier in the market will find out at what price what is the demand for the product in the market. For example, here, please look at the table now. Please look at the table. At price 20 rupees, how much is the demand? At 30 rupees, how much is the demand? At 40 rupees, how much is the demand? This is called as a demand schedule. And in the same way, we also have supply schedule. What we do is, we take this demand schedule, draw demand curve. We take the supply schedule, draw the supply curve. All of you are okay with this? Anybody has a problem? All of you okay with this? Point number one. Point number two. Imagine you are at point L on the demand curve. You are at point L. Point L means what? Let's say hypothetically this is point L. Let's say this is point L. That is, price is 40 rupees and the demand is 140 units. Price is 40 rupees, demand is 140 units. Now, let's say price will go up from 40 rupees to 50 rupees. Right? You tell me, logically it should be applicable now. If the price will go from 40 to 50 rupees, what will happen to the demand? Demand has to go in opposite direction, come down. Now, what I'll do is, I'll take 50 rupees and plot 120 units. I'll take basically 50 rupees, plot 120 units. Where does this new point, I'll call this as M. I'll call this point as M. Where does the point M fall? The point M will basically fall on the demand curve again. Any problem here? The point M, the new point M will fall on what? It will fall on the demand curve only. I'll take one more point. Let's say N. Right? I'll take point N. Point N is what? Price will fall from 40 rupees to 30 rupees. If I take 30 rupees, how much is the demand? Demand should go upwards now, 160 units. So I will find out on the demand curve where is point N. And right, the point N will basically fall on the same line all over again. Any problem here? Which means, now please look at the statement, look at the graph and listen to my statement. Can I say, when I move from point L to point N, can I say, I have moved downwards along the demand curve? Let me know. If I'm moving from point L to point N, can I say I'm moving downwards along? Along means on the same line, along the curve. And if I'm moving from point L to point M, I'm basically moving upwards on the same curve. This is called as movement along the curve. Any problem here? This is called as movement along the curve. But very, very important, please make a note of this. Whenever you talk about movement along the curve, please look at the graph, look at the table and tell me, is it okay if I say only the price of the product is changing, as a result of which demand is changing, and because of this, we are observing movement along the curve? Last point, by the way, after this, I'll take questions. Okay, I'll repeat the statement again. Look at the table, look at the graph, and this is the question to you. Is it okay if I say here only the price of the product changes, nothing else, only the price of the product changes, as a result of which demand also changes, and right, as a result of a price and demand changing, you will start moving along the demand curve. Right? This is called as movement along the curve. Right? Can we do the same thing for supply curve also? Of course, yes. Same thing can be done even for supply curve. Nothing changes. Price changes, supply also changes, as a result of which either you will move upwards or downwards along the supply curve. But remember the technical names now. Last point for the day, technical names. The technical name is, whenever there is a movement along the curve, we will use the term contraction and expansion. I repeat, whenever you are looking at, right, the movement along the curve, we will use the term contraction and expansion. How do we use the term contraction and expansion? Let's say we are moving from L to M. Let's say hypothetically, we are moving from point L to point M. Can I say, in this case, the prices are expanding, demand is contracting? I'll repeat it. Whenever you move from point L to point M, can I say, in this case, the prices are expanding, demand is contracting? Done? Any problem with this? This is called as movement along the curve. Point number one. Point number two, this happens only when price of the product changes. Only when the price of the product changes. And point number three, whenever you observe movement along the curve, use the contraction and expansion terminology. Done. So this is what I want to discuss for today. Tomorrow I'll start with the concept of shift of the curve. So if you have got any kind of questions, please do let me know. Otherwise, we can wind up the discussion for the day. Please give the name of NCRTs that we can refer for economics. My dear, there's a slide. There is a slide for that only. References. Class 9th, what is the title, 10th, etc., etc. I've discussed all of it. Right? The list is there. Please have a look at it. Impact on the budget. Again, I repeat, budget here simply means overall expenditure. If you want to understand, my dear, if you are from middle class household or lower middle class household, right, which I'm pretty sure a large people in India, including you people, including me, come from, don't you think every month in the house we decide maximum how much money we are going to spend on food? Correct or not? Every month we decide how much money we are supposed to, right, spend on food, groceries, 10,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees, etc. Now, if the price of some of the products start increasing, we will not change the demand unless we understand that within 10,000 rupees, we'll be able to continue to consume the same things. The moment I decide, right, I decide that, okay, tomato prices 200 rupees per kg within my budget, within 10,000 rupees, not possible. I will change the demand. That is basically the households will only change the demand when they understand what is the impact on the budget. Okay. What is meaning by balanced growth? Balanced growth means only certain sections of the society will not get the benefit. They will not keep on becoming richer. Government will also make policies, promote employment, promote growth in certain regions, etc. Okay. Is PPT sufficient? Absolutely no. Absolutely no. So I hope you understand. In case of economy, I'll keep on telling you this every week. PPT, standard book, current affairs. Current affairs, current affairs, current affairs. Okay, what is opportunity cost? Because there's a scarcity of resources. I repeat, because there's a scarcity of resources between two options, right? You will have to choose one, you will have to sacrifice the next best alternative. You'll have to sacrifice, forego the next best alternative. And because you have chosen one, sacrifice the other, what is the potential benefit or loss you're going to incur? That is called as opportunity cost. Is upward moving curve, is it also referred to as a left movement of the curve? No, my dear. Right shift, left shift. Tomorrow we'll discuss that. Okay. What is the opportunity cost if I opt for FD and there is a loss in business? My dear, imagine you have incurred a loss of 10 rupee and right, you basically have foregone the opportunity of opening an FD. In that case, let's say 6 rupees there, 10 rupees here. That is your opportunity cost. You cannot do both. If you're asking, I'll keep FD also, I'll start business also, then where is the question of sacrificing one? I hope you understand. You'll have to sacrifice one. Either choose FD or choose business. You cannot do both. Then there is no sacrifice there. Okay. In expectations, if the price increases, the demand is also increased. Yes, that is generally what is happening. Either it can happen this way or it can happen that way also. For example, imagine you want to purchase a car. You want to purchase a car. This month, the prices of cars have come down by 10,000 rupees. Last month also, the prices of car has come down by 10,000 rupees. My simple question to you, based on this, will you not make an analysis and say, let me wait for one more month? Let me wait for one more month, prices might further come down. So I hope you understand. It can happen this way also, it can happen the other way also. Okay. Sir, in the market equilibrium curve, price and demand will always. One second. That question got missed. It is very difficult to connect with current affairs, my dear. Please read newspapers every day. Read newspapers every day. The only solution to that is read. Okay. Movement along the curve. Right. Last question. I'll just tell you. What is the meaning of movement along the curve? Point number one. How do you draw a curve? Understand that this is the last one. Okay. How do you get a demand curve in the first place? You know, at 30 rupees, demand is 100 units. At 40 rupees, demand is 80 units. At 50 rupees, a demand is 60 units. At 60 rupees, a demand is 40 units. You already know this. So what you will do? You will plot, right? Let's say this is, right, 40, 60, 80 and 100. 40, 60, 80 and 100. Okay. And here it will be 30, 40, 50 and 60 rupees. So what you will do? You will basically take the points 40, 60, right? You will take, right, the 50 and 60. You will take 40 and 80 and 30 and 100. You will connect the dots. This is how you have drawn the demand curve. Is it okay? This is how you have drawn the demand curve. Same thing you will do with supply curve. What I'm saying is, imagine you are at this particular point. That is, this price is 50 rupees, sorry, price is 40 rupees and right, the demand is 80 units, right? This is the point I'm talking about. You're at this particular point, let's say point 1 or P, you will confuse with price. Let's say this is point L. I'm saying if you move up, right, if you change the price now, if you expand it to 50 rupees, then the demand automatically will change to 60, which is nothing but a point again on the curve. Right? This is basic idea. This is how you get the curve. And if you change the price to 30 rupees, you will get a point on the curve again at this particular point only. Right? So this is called as movement, that is upward movement along the curve or downward movement along the curve. Okay. Okay. So can we say that market behaves to accommodate the situation of demand and supply? Of course, yes. But again, please understand this. Then you'll simply say, is it applicable always? I'll say no, exceptions are there. Does market behave always in a situation where prices will go up, demand will come down? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Okay. Okay. Done. So let's stop the discussion today here. We'll continue the discussion again tomorrow. Okay. So that's it from my side. Take care. Good night.